the world, the news coming out of the fourth is a lot as we are 2 weeks out from the start of training camp in the National Football League. As we always do, we start the program off with Big Sills. Hope all of you had a great 4th of July, family and fireworks. Man, my favorite time and my favorite holidays is when you don't do shit. You sit on your ass, you go swimming, you do nothing, and you don't worry about anything. You don't worry about the things in the world going on. Holidays afford you that. You get away from the real world, and here we are back Monday fighting the world once again together. So we appreciate it. We know that you guys have numerous options. And as I said, we are 2 weeks away. How about this? The Texans are 9 days away. They're 9 days away from the start of training camp. I think they report on the 17th. Holy cow. We are right here, man. Saw pictures of Dak Prescott in a walking boot. Reports are today he has it off. Can't think he's going to be ready for the start of training camp. Can you? Cowboys are in such a dilemma with that guy. $60 million? Look, man, I don't think they're moving off that guy. But still, Cowboy drama during the offseason. Where else would you get it but in Dallas? Xander will join us at 3:30, and then Angelo Cataldi will join us. He's going to come off the top rope on Howard Eskin, WIP, the Eagles. His comments on some of the storylines about Hurts this offseason. Lots of stuff to hit on here. So we appreciate it. By the way, we always try to get to 200 likes. Please do me a favor. Okay? Hit the like button. Thank you again. Daniel says, happy football Monday, Big Sills. Truth, justice, and the Big Sills way. Almost football season. Love your work. Love listening. Daniel Paisan, thank you very much for coming aboard. We appreciate it. We got a ton of shit to hit on, too. We do. Ton of stuff, man. I appreciate that, Daniel. That's awesome. And as the season starts to get closer, all the people that stuck with us in the offseason, you know, when you have those highs and lows a little bit in sports talk, I've been doing this now for 34 years. You know, you go through those ways. Football season. I tell Xander this all the time. Anybody could do a sports show during the football season and in the fall. But what you guys did was you guys gave us content the entire year. Now, look, this is not a traditional 24/7 football show. We talk about everything. You guys know that. We talk about everything. I talk sports, and I was a sports talk host for 25, 26 years doing morning drive. So it's kind of not just an all football show, but you guys keep it rolling, man. So many storylines. Got it, man. And we so appreciate it. You know, I want to first start it out here. By the way, Big Sills and my Eagle random thoughts as we're 2 weeks to camp. I do want to start with something here, and I got to bring this up here. And I want to bring this up because I read this. By the way, does anybody know who Chris Carlin is? Do you guys know who Chris Carlin is? Says that he works for ESPN. Do you know who Chris Carlin is? Like, I don't, is he's like a WFAN guy? That name, it kind of sounds familiar that way. Right? Who's Chris Carlin? Now, I don't know where he got this from, but it led me to think about something as you go forward here. I know why I woke up with morning wood. 5 days of Dan. I don't know how to take that. Never heard of him, says Tony. I'm with you, Tony. I've never heard of the guy. And I never heard of the guy, but here, let me read this to you. You guys ever hear the Philadelphia Eagles Central? I don't know, Xander, is it a credible site? Because, you know, nowadays, you really don't know what you're reading sometimes. Some of these sites are credible. Some people have a pretty good reputation. Some people have no reputation. He used to be at FAN, says Tony. Okay. He's a WFAN guy. So here's what he said about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has got a problem here, and it's not stuff on the field. And way to be late to the table here. I worked in Philadelphia. He did. Did he work at IP or over at 97.5? I've never heard of the guy. I know the town pretty well. Okay. There were some things going on there with Jalen Hurts in the locker room in terms of guys not loving how he handled himself after they went to the Super Bowl and after he got paid. Is that true? I don't. I can't put a. And look, I'm critical of Jalen, and I'm like, did Jalen have a problem with teammates after he got paid, and how he conducted himself after? There's some fences for Jalen Hurts to mend in the locker room. The talent level is fantastic. This is a backhand slap. I worry about that being a situation that can blow up at any moment. And think if it does, it's going to get ugly. ESPN's Chris Carlin on Jalen Hurts. Does that Eagle locker room have a persona that it's mentally weak? How do you take that? That's a guy's perspective that says that he worked in this town. It says that Jalen Hurts. Now, again, he's such a young player. Look, I'm not making excuses up here. And I'll show you where I'm going here. Okay? Sills, he was with WFAN. Thank you, Kyle. I'm going to ask a question here in a second. Okay? Guys looking for clicks. I don't look at the Eagle locker room being that weak. I look at poor coaching a year ago that was an issue. And people not having the answers to get them out of issues where they could right the ship. And the players went down with it. But when I look at those players, do I think that they look at it and go, wow, Jalen's an asshole? I don't look at them as being a soft football team. I look at the Miami Dolphins as being a soft team. I mean, do you question the entire character of the football team? You can after the 1-7 letdown. And there's something to that. And Dark Universe says it right. Lane Johnson says, we all love and respect Jalen Hurts. He did say that recently. So Dark Universe, this is where I'm going with this. Does Hurts really have to mend fences with teammates? Or is this just an organizational and fan thing? And what I'm going to lay out to you, were you guys critical of Donovan McNabb? And were the Philly sports media critical of Donovan McNabb? Yes or no? Were they? Were they critical of his leadership? Of McNabb's? Some of you can be still a Donovan fan. Okay? You can be a Donovan. I'm just asking you, did you question his leadership at times? Yes, says Dark Universe. McNabb never won the big one. I think so, Sil, says Kyle. Thank you, Robert. Were you guys critical and were people critical of Donovan McNabb's leadership? I'm showing you where I'm going to go here with this. Because you know what? You have a track record of this. Flexen goes, I did. Okay. Did you question Carson Wentz's leadership? Did you question his leadership? Definitely, I believe so, says Tony. I was very critical, says Flexen. Okay. We okay. Wentz was too. Joe goes, yep. Sills, is this a rhetorical question? Nice. Philly 4x4. Yeah. Flexen goes, yes. You guys questioned his leadership, right? Okay. When you guys ended up trading Nick Foles to the Rams, were you questioning him and his leadership? Not the second time back when he took over as a substitute teacher, but when you dealt him to the Rams. Okay, Mike says Wentz couldn't handle the Philly media. So now we have McNabb and Wentz. People had critical thoughts on leadership. So when they sent Nick Foles away the first time, you guys had Sam Bradford. Okay? No. Dark Universe. He wasn't a true leader the first time you dealt him away. That's not true. You're looking at the second reincarnation of Foles when you had him on the football team. Absolutely not true, dude. Why'd you send him away then? He couldn't win the big one. You questioned his leadership on driving the team across the finish line. Why did you deal him to the Rams then? Remember something. He left twice. You forgot that. You've erased that one first round when they moved him. You forgot that because he won the Super Bowl the second round. You forgot that. So you were critical of Foles even. Hey, don't deny it. Dark Universe goes, I meant round two. I know you did, and I get it. Were you guys critical of Michael Vick? Hey, you guys in here, some of you have a short-term memory loss issue. You dealt Foles because you thought he couldn't win the big one. And you forget round one. You dealt him to the Rams and you had Sam Bradford. Were the Eagle media and people critical of Vic? Yes or no? In his leadership abilities. Flexing goes out was very critical of Vic. Chip did. Okay. Yes. And now here we are with Hurts. You've questioned every single quarterback that you've had pretty much since 2000 in their leadership issues. Every one of them sucked? Really? The media, the organization. Is this an organizational thing? The organization had to question it too because they moved off him. All these guys. Look at the trend you have here in your quarterbacks. When we talked about leadership, we should package every quarterback except Patrick Mahomes. They all struggle with leadership. Yeah, but in Philly, it looks like the last four guys that you've had, you've questioned their leadership abilities. Now, there's some scuttle about Jalen Hurts' leadership. You think this happened by coincidence? That every one of your quarterbacks, when they go through a little small downturn, by the way, it's not a debate whether he'll bounce. I'm talking about you in the media and the front office. Here's the problem that you have and why you can't develop a decent quarterback. Because the front office panics. Let's think about something here. Okay? Andy Reid has done more for the modern day Philadelphia Eagles and how you operate more so than any man, any general manager, Joe Banner, Howie Roseman. There is nobody since Dick Vermeil that has done more for the culture of the Eagles than Andy Reid. Everything you operate under right now was installed by Reid and his organization in the early 2000s. Do we not agree? Howie's a benefactor of that. But the one thing that Howie and the organization aren't are football people. They pretend they are. This is why they struggle in developing quarterbacks. Every single quarterback that you've had since McNabb, Wentz, Vic, Foles, and now Hurts, the organization doesn't have the patience to sit and develop. They'll constantly bring in new coaches, new coordinators, and try and reinvent the wheel every year. This is the frustration that you have. Get this. I thought about this. So I went back and looked, and I went back and read columns in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Every single quarterback that you've had since McNabb, his leadership has been questioned. Shit, you guys forgot about Nick Foles round one on how you questioned his leadership. It's why you dealt him to the Rams and Bradford came into Philly. You forgot that. He was sent out of town because many of you thought he couldn't win the big one. Carson Wentz, guy was playing well, has an issue. They change coaches. They don't give him the proper personnel. Leadership issue. All of a sudden now, get this. So really, was it Carson Wentz in the locker room that was really an asshole when every one of the quarterbacks that they have had since they've been together in 2000 as an organization, they've questioned every one of these guys? This is not by coincidence. This is the trend. Now it's Hurts' turn. You know, it's funny. Every one of these quarterbacks have had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. McNabb gets a team to the Super Bowl, arguably your greatest quarterback in the history. You know, you could even go back to Cunningham. Now, Cunningham wasn't under, I don't believe, Jeffrey Lurie. But you can go back to Cunningham and how you were critical of him and his leadership. That organization, since Randall, has questioned the quarterback leadership for 30 years. Jalen Hurts is a product of an environment of constantly being overcritical and not being patient in developing of the player. How can you develop Jalen Hurts when you've had hey, Kellen Moore might be a fine coach and he might be a fine coordinator. But again, you've ripped up the page and he's starting over again, just in play calling language alone. You know, I'm at the holidays and I'm thinking, let's take a look at the last 5-6 quarterbacks they have here, how they've treated them and how they've developed them. It's been the carbon copy. It's the same process. You guys have the same process. Am I wrong? You get this. You guys have had the highest of highs when it comes to loving a quarterback and the lowest of lows when it comes to your quarterback. Now you're questioning Hurts. Look, maybe Reuben Franks is right. This ain't a leadership issue. This is more of a turnover issue and the lack of patience by the organization. Has Saban ever developed any quarterbacks? Flexing. He doesn't have to when he's won 7 national titles. College and pro are different. College coaches aren't there to set you up for the next level. That's the mistake John Calipari had. John Calipari said, look at all the millionaires that we've made for the NBA. Yeah, you won 1 national title and completely underachieved. Look at the great college programs that have had great basketball programs. Name me a guy off the Indiana Hoosiers basketball program under Bob Knight outside of Isaiah Thomas that was a superstar player. Can you name me one? He didn't send guys to the NBA. How about Krzyzewski? What, Grant Hill? Okay. Kyrie Irving played 2 games for him. Name me another guy. How many Duke superstars in 40 years did he put in the league? Okay? Some of these coaches don't look at Nebraska back in the day. Nebraska didn't put superstars in the NFL. It was a football program. Sills, boardroom guys do not understand the importance of working through your struggles. They don't want growth. That's why Howie succeeds in free agency. He succeeds at finding the right finished product. Correct. Because you know why? He doesn't have the patience, like you're saying, Bob, to develop. That's why you don't develop any. Hey, get this. John McMullen said this perfectly with Xander the other day. Do you know why he hit a grand slam with Devontae Smith? He was already a finished product. They didn't have to do any developing. When's the last wide receiver you developed? That was great. I can't remember. In 20 years, Deshaun Jackson, okay. Macklin, kind of. I wouldn't put him as an elite receiver. Those guys aren't elite. That's right. That organization right there is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Prince, this is exactly what I'm talking about on the frustration that you guys have when it comes to talking about Jalen Hurts. This is not a Jalen Hurts issue. This is a massive front office problem that they have that, get this, they lose their patience, and it's clearly why they don't win. And I'm talking postseason winning. Queasy Dropkins, Xander. I mean, you question McNabb, you question Wentz, you question Vic, you question Foles round one, and now you're questioning Hurts. This is all since 2000. Every one of these guys have been your franchise quarterback. Every one of these guys, two of them, three of them have helped you get to Super Bowls. Wentz, McNabb, and Hurts. And you still questioned it. Dan says Jalen is not that dude. I'm not really talking about that right now, Dan. I'm talking about how maybe he's not. Dan, maybe he's not. But I'm not sure we'll ever know. Prince goes, Howie has to be praised. For what? Prince, what are you praising him for? Underachieving? My God. I mean, there's so many things you do right as an organization, and there's so many things you do absolutely wrong as an organization. You don't have enough football people in the right positions. You have glorified CPAs and bookworms and librarians in your front office, and it shows. What could they? It's like, when you're an athlete and you go to a doctor and he says you're morbidly obese and you're 275 pounds and you got 10% body fat, but he still calls you obese, you're like, well, you're not a sports doctor. What would you know? You deal with people in the band. What would you know about how to treat an athlete? Hey, doctors for athletes are completely different than normal civilians, doctors. Completely different. Completely different. Okay? Hate how some of these fans praise pussy ass Howie. Listen, Howie does a lot of great stuff. But here's the one thing, Bruce. Okay? I don't know why that organization doesn't stick to what he does great and make him even greater at what he does. And leave the football stuff to people who understand it more. Do you really think that guy knows how to develop a quarterback? Well, if that was the case, Howie, you wouldn't be having this revolving door since 2000. Hey, let's do this one. Did Donovan McNabb live up to all the expectations in his ability as a quarterback in Philadelphia under the Eagle management? Did he live up to his ability and his talent level? Yes or no? Did he live up to it? What would you say? Boy, I'll tell you what, early Donovan McNabb, when he first got in the league, I thought he was sensational. Okay? Tony says, no way. Dan, I hear that every year. He still can't. I got it. I know all that. Bruce says he did. 215 goes 50-50. Kyle says somewhat. I don't know. I just remember him losing out against the D-Jacks. Taking us to a Super Bowl and winning it is two different things. Kimberly, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Look at you guys, somewhat. Are you suggesting that Howie told Andy Reid how to develop McNabb? I'm telling you, Howie Roseman had nothing to do with how Andy Reid. I just got through saying this. Absolutely not. Slagger, I'm telling you, everything you are right now is because of what Andy Reid did back in the day. Nothing Howie did. He's a benefactor. The man who changed the culture in Philadelphia Eagles football history are two men in the last 50 years, Dick Vermeil and Andy Reid. The rest of them have been benefactors from what he's done. Doug Peterson is an Andy Reid guy too. You think there's any coincidence to that? I mean, Andy didn't win you the Super Bowl, but one of his proteges did. You think there was any coincidence to that? When the owner wanted to hire somebody, he wanted to hire somebody in the image of Andy. Doug Peterson is a reflection of Andy Reid, not of Howie Roseman or the organization. Well, in a way he is, because it's Andy's organization. Hey, how about this? You think Wentz lived up to his potential? No. Now, Vic is different because of the circumstances he had coming out of prison. So he's not fair. When you drafted Foles, you think Foles lived up to his? Foles is the prime example of your inconsistency. You thought he sucked. You brought him back. He stepped in for you, won the biggest game in franchise history. Then you made the poor decision again and dealt him. Sills, you're trying to tell me you would have kept Foles over Wentz? Probably not. Probably not. But I'll tell you what, that conversation would have been a little bit more entailed. I saw a guy get my team to a divisional game 2 years in a row. You want to hear something? Nick Foles led the Philadelphia Eagles to 2 divisional round games. 1 year, he won the NFC title and then the Super Bowl and the MVP in the game. Prescott in his 10 years has never done that. Gotten to a second round like that. Think about that. Foles did more in 2 years than what Prescott did in his entire career. And you guys moved off him. Moved off him. Foles was not durable. Okay. Hey, by the way, I'm just saying every one of these guys you guys have criticized, most notably on their leadership capabilities. Totally. Sills Laurie is a movie guy, and he loves publicity and grand openings. He runs this team the same way. It's about making splash and getting the media to say nice things so they are and put butts in the seats. Bob, I know. This Howard Eskin story is one of the biggest stories in Philadelphia sports right now. It's quite amusing. Angelo Cataldi will be with us at 4:30. I can't wait to listen to him. One thing also about that, to show you that, once again, Bob Lang and his henchmen over there at the NovaCare Center with the Eagles, and they are henchmen. You know what they do? How could you be critical? Say there's some drama this year with Nick, and there's some internal drama. How could WIP be critical of the Eagles when they don't even conversation about their own things that are going on in their own station? How can you not be a hypocrite? Well, the Eagles aren't speaking. Neither are you. I'm not talking about right or wrong here, sexual harassment. I'm talking about nothing. You don't address your own controversies? Well, you're the Eagles. So anything that they say, you now take with a grain of salt. They're the mouthpiece of the Eagles. Like I've been telling you, there is the prime example of it. The Philadelphia Eagles and the station known as WIP work hand in hand to fool you. You know, first they say they suspended. Or no, they punished Howard, but then they didn't suspend him. Which is it? I'm confused. Did you punish him? You didn't suspend him. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you're saying. The Eagle organization doesn't know how to read the room. Building a statue of a backup quarterback while your franchise quarterback is still on the team. Eagles. It's a great take. It's a great take. They do what's in the best interest of their own view of the team, not the players on the team. You're right. If I've got a guy that I just gave a max deal to, and the backup quarterback went in and won a game for me, you know what that would be like doing, Prince? That the Cleveland Cavaliers would make a statue of Kyrie Irving out front of that arena because he hit the game-winning shot that won the NBA title and not have one of LeBron. You think that rubbed LeBron wrong? Well, the guy made the clutch shot. That's still not going to go well with my guys in my locker room. Absolutely. They don't look at that. They look at coaches and players as widgets. Look at how you've treated your quarterbacks. And get this, the PR department, the propaganda machine, led by Bob Lang, doesn't do anything to protect these guys. They just throw them out there. McNabb, Wentz, Foles, Hurts. It's the same shit. Just a different year. Nothing changes. Sills, the guy's not, he can't read. I'm not even debating that. I'm talking about how you handle the guys that are in the most important position on your football team. I'm not saying you have to carry these guys with kid gloves. You're paying them, like Xander says, $50 million a year. Suck it up, guy. I get it. But when your organization is not helping you and you've got a trend of talking shit to your quarterback, the face of your franchise, how can you ever be the face of your franchise when the organization doesn't want him to be the face of the franchise? They didn't want McNabb, Wentz, Foles. So guess what they do to Carson Wentz? They draft Hurts, then they build a statue out front of the place. I don't know. You might not think that's a good move. Hurts have a leadership issue. You know what? I'm going to bring this up with Angelo at 4:30 and with Xander at this is a trend. You do this to every one of your guys. I mean, I don't think there's a coincidence to it. They drafted Hurts because of the constant injuries and poor backup quarterbacks on the roster. In the second round, you got Foles like in the 4th or 6th or whatever you got him. In the second? Right? Hey, man. This is an organizational thing once again. Every single one of your guys. Foles was a third. That's a big pick. That's a big draft pick. I don't understand. There was a Super Bowl drought. Folks beat Brady. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking when you dumped his ass round 1. You forget you traded him for Sam Bradford. Your so-called statue hero. You traded him for Sam Bradford. Because you didn't think he was a winner. You keep forgetting that. Sam Bradford. The guy who hijacked. Bradford had more upside than Foles. Foles won the Super Bowl. What's Bradford's upside? What was his upside? I missed it. Robbing organizations of money? Number 1 overall pick. Congratulations. That had nothing to do with his career. That's right. Yeah, he was a bum. Upside. You said that Sam Bradford had more upside than Foles. And Foles will be able to walk around the city of Philadelphia with a Super Bowl ring and an MVP ring and an MVP car he was given and a statue up front of Lincoln Financial, and Bradford had more upside. Sam Bradford or Nick Foles, who are you taking? One of these guys in here says Bradford. I've never seen a guy steal more money in my life. Maybe that guy, Brock Osweiler. Both those guys, when they went into organizations, they didn't even need a gun. They just stole. Sam Busford. You traded Nick Foles, your future MVP and statue up front of your building, for Sam Bradford. Yeah, it's quite a testament. What happened the first time around, Nick? You were an all-pro, yet I didn't think I could win. Didn't you throw for 26 touchdowns and 2 picks? Yeah. They didn't want to stick with me, though. They moved away from me, sent me to the Rams, where that coach killer Jeff Fisher was. Shit, who was on that team? I mean, hey, did they have like, I don't want to, it wasn't Kirk Cousins. They had somebody else on that team, that Rams team, that ended up winning some playoff games too. And yeah, they had the coach killer or quarterback killer. Jeff Fisher was in the building. Hindsight? Ben, I'm not talking about hindsight. I'm talking about how you've dumped on every guy since McNabb, and now you're questioning Hurts' leadership. Hindsight? I'm talking about the present with Hurts. You're missing the conversation, bro. This isn't a Nick Foles conversation. This is a conversation about why are you questioning another guy? You know why? It's an innate thing you do. The Eagles have an innate inability to stand and try to develop coaches or quarterbacks. You don't develop quarterbacks. Name me one fucking quarterback you've developed in 24 years. None. 0. And you've ripped them all. McNabb, Wentz, Vic, Foles, Hurts now. That's the conversation. Hey, Prince, you're right. This ain't a Hurts thing. This is an Eagle thing. There lies your problem. Some of you go like this. Well, Hurts ain't the guy. How do you know? How do you know? Let me put it to you this way. Well, if they would have put the talent around Carson Wentz that they put around Hurts, you think his chances of succeeding would be bigger and better? If he had Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and an offensive line like he had, do you think the chances of him turning his career around would have been a little better at least? Or no? Or do you want to just cast an indictment? You know why? I could cast an indictment on the last 5 quarterbacks you've had. Oh, I see. How about this? What do you think if McNabb had all the talent that Hurts has right now and they put that talent around him? You think he'd be okay too? How about if Nick had all that talent? Wentz was brain dead. How do you know? Okay, Mike, not to relitigate this. How do you have a 4,000-yard passing season and not one wide receiver over 500 yards receiving? How do you know? Thank you, Kyle. Case Keenum. He won some ball games. Wait a minute. 11 says, Sills, I disagree. This time's different. No, it's not. They're questioning his leadership now, the media. Some people in the organization are saying they're a little bit upset with Hurts. Did I miss that? That's Jeff McClain's words, not mine. Those were Jeff McClain's words. How would I know? These people don't talk to me. They only talk to my bosses. Okay? How do I don't know. The roster looks good now, but it's important to remember that Wentz didn't receive enough support and there were mistakes in the draft picks in an attempt to outsmart everyone in the room. Correct. Made colossal mistakes. Edge rushers, corners, linebackers. The defense was constantly a revolving door, and it's been since 17. The one thing you got to give him credit for, and I do agree with everyone that says this, how he makes a mistake in the draft, he goes into free agency and he plugs the dike. Okay. Yes. I'd rather have him do that than go back into the draft and keep taking swings at shit he can't do. You know, he's taking a big gamble here with these corners. This is something he's not good at. Now, it looks like these two guys could be good. It's just a wait and see. I don't know. It's the biggest fail rate, corners, in the last 20 years is corners at 64%. And when you add the fact that the Eagles have been awful at it, you have to expedite that a little to up to 70%. There's a 70% chance these corners fail. You watch Kenny Pickett will replace Jalen Hurts, just like Jalen replaced Carson Wentz. Then they will draft another quarterback to replace Pickett. And you're on the same revolving door you've been since 2000. And then here we are again. This has been the topic right here. That's exactly right, disciple. That's the topic. You got it. It's a revolving conversation. And it's a 25-year conversation. So when you guys say Hurts is going to turn it around, you have no history of turning any of your quarterbacks around. But Jalen's going to be the one? I don't believe it. The only reason McNabb lasted as long as he did was because Reed was in charge. Once the organization when Andy Reid left, authority in the locker room left and went upstairs. That's why Doug was fired. Jeffrey Lurie grabbed control of his organization when Andy Reid. What year was Andy Reid fired? What year was he fired? Was that 17? No. 12? What year was he fired? I forget. 12, 13, something like that? That he was 13, right? He was fired 12, 13, somewhere in there. Well, ever since 2013, the ownership group has taken complete control of the organization. And look at the quarterback since 13. Every one of those guys are on the same conveyor belt. And Xander said this about 3 months ago. It looks eerily the same as what they did with Wentz, what they're doing with Hurts. You know why, Xander? Because it is. It's the same. Hey, Charlie, could you imagine Michael Vick with the talent on the team right now? Holy cow. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, I don't know. Seals, the Eagles want their front office to be the face of the franchise, and it is. Howie's the face of the franchise. Hey, that's a great question. Bob, who do you think the face of the franchise is? Howie Roseman or Jalen Hurts? Who do you think the face of the franchise right now? Who would you say? Who do you think the face of the franchise? And by the way, I saw Jason Kelce was asked again today about his confidence in Jalen Hurts. Why is that even a question? Sill's absolutely correct. If Foles had this offensive talent, he would have probably won the second Super Bowl instead of Jeffries not catching the ball. Ace, I'll tell you that all the time. He catches that football in New Orleans. My conversation about keeping him over Wentz would have been a hard one because I don't know how you move off a guy who got your football team to 2 straight NFC championships. God forbid he would have put that team in the Super Bowl again. I mean, he was a catch away late in that game against New Orleans. He catches that football. He's in the NFC title game again. You're moving off that? I don't know. I don't know. If Jalen had a bad year, if Jalen plays bad this year, I agree. But for now, he's earned another shot. Absolutely. Moving off him. The money alone, you're not moving off him. It's not the point. That's not my point I'm making here. It's a conveyor belt of the same stuff, just a different quarterback. Sills, when Reed was fired, they gave Chip Kelly control immediately afterwards. Ownership has been hungry for control since Chip. Yeah, okay, Marshall, you're right. You're right. Chip got complete control because the Buccaneers didn't want to give it to him. That's why he didn't get that Buck job, and they gave it to Greg Schiano. And he went back another year at Oregon. And then the Eagles ended up giving him the complete keys to the shop there at NovaCare. You're right. And then after year 3, somewhere in there, they started taking some of the power away and stripping him down a little bit. That's a true statement. You're right. That's a true statement. I completely agree. Okay. The media is on an all-out Hurts. Xander, I'd like to get that up. Prince, thank you. Prince, am I wrong, Prince, what I'm saying here? Prince, am I wrong here that this has just been just a different quarterback, just a different year, just a different thing, but it's the same result in how they treat everyone, right? Sills, when Reed was fired, they gave Chip complete control immediately afterwards. Ownership has been hungry for control since Chip. Nate, that's right. You're right. You're dead right with that. Totally right. Okay? Totally. But Nick throws up prayers. Okay? So what's the definition of insanity? Roseman and the Eagles doing the same shit over and over. Dude, there's no way you should have lost that 22 Super Bowl. There's just no way. But that's not part of this conversation, though. They will get rid of Jalen before Sirianni. That's a great comment. That's a great comment. Who do they get rid of first? Who means more? Hey, John, thank you very much. It's a great topic. Who means more to Nick? I mean, who means more to the owner and the GM, Nick or Jalen? Shit, you've dealt all these quarterbacks in the past. Who means more to ownership in the front office? The head coach? What if Jalen does this? He kind of plays well. It's super great. And they get to a second round. And Nick's righted the ship, and it looked good. But you start realizing Hurts, he's not the guy. Will they keep Nick? Fire Nick? Or will they move off of, or try to begin the process of moving off of Jalen? You've moved off of Wentz, Foles. You've done it in the past. Now you've done it in the past moving off of coaches too. But who means more to them? Dude, nobody in their right mind keeps their job after that kind of display of coaching last year. Some go like this. Look at Nick's record. How about looking at Nick's behavior? Does that guy pass? Here, Xander's right. Sills, when you look at the resume and you look at that on paper and you don't watch the man on the sidelines every Sunday, you look at the paper and go, you're crazy. But when you watch the man operate, you watch the man at press conferences, does that guy pass the eyeball test that he knows what he's doing? Just a question. How about this? If I put that guy in front of a microphone and had him talk and you didn't know his resume, would you hire Nick Sirianni as your head football coach? Does that guy exude confidence that you would hand your team over to him? You didn't know his resume. And now he's been 3 years in, going on 4. Does that guy pass the eyeball test? Well, Sills, he'll get an interview. Okay. If I didn't look at that resume and he talked to me, I'd be like, I don't feel confident with this guy. How come that doesn't match up? When I watch Belichick talk and I look at Bill's resume, it matches up. Feed him shit. It's about the team. I don't know you, dick. This is what I've done. This is how it is and what we need to be great. I mean, you're right, Xander. On paper, it's kind of like the Eagle team. On paper, looks good. But when you put the eyeball test to it, you're like, something's missing. Something's missing. Seals, can you imagine Tom Landry and Don Sileo looking at that dope Sirianni up in his arms on the sidelines? Hey, look, you don't have to be a stoic guy in a top hat. But the one thing Coach Landry did, he had a way of doing shit. He modified it all the time. But I'll tell you one thing that he did do. He had patience and poise. I think that's a character that you have to have when you're a great head coach. You have to have belief. I told you the story before about Jimmy Johnson in the 1-15 season. They were getting their ass handed to them. Dave Wannstedt comes to him and goes, don't you think we should go to the 34? Everybody's running it. You know what Jimmy said? Nah, we're going to do it my way. I believe in it. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to do it this way. Won 3 Super Bowls in the next 4 years. And get this. Had the poise and patience with Aikman. Do you know that Troy Aikman was Jimmy Johnson's toughest player to coach? It wasn't Michael Irvin. It wasn't Charles Haley. It wasn't Dexter Manley. It wasn't Jason Taylor. Zach Thomas. It wasn't Nate Newton. It was Troy Aikman. You know why? Why do you think Aikman was the toughest player for Jimmy Johnson to coach? Both players have come a long way. Jimmy and Troy have come a long way. Okay? You know how? Well, Troy Aikman was supposed to go to Oklahoma State. He said no. After he got hurt, he was going to transfer to Miami. He said no. Went to UCLA. When Jimmy took the Cowboys over, they were taking him no matter what. Remember, you don't have a choice to say no. And then they drafted what? Steve Walsh. Then they went back and forth after Aikman got hurt and Bernie Kosar won a couple playoff games. Then they put Steve Berline in. And they weren't going to put Aikman back in. Players went to coach and went, you got to put him in. Jimmy's like, I'm not messing around with anything. Troy Aikman and him didn't speak for an entire year. Finally, Jimmy went to him and said, you're my guy. And they went on to win Super Bowls. But you know what they did? They mended fences. And they ended up coming to some type of agreement. And they had the patience with one another. The same thing that Brady and Belichick had in New England. You have to have that patience. Eagles don't have it. Okay? They don't have it with their quarterbacks. Look at your history. I'll never forget, again, I was during the holidays. Xander said it. I don't know, Xander, what was it, about 2 months ago you said this? Doesn't it look like the same thing they're doing to Hurts that they did with Wentz? It just kind of eerily looks the same. Well, it is. Because they did it with every other guy they've had. I don't think there's a coincidence to that. Lord Vaughn goes, I blame the fans and media for organizations' lack of patience. Hey, Lord Vaughn, if you're running your football team based on what the fans want and based on what the media wants, you'll never win. And I highly doubt that. But then again, the propaganda machine over there at NovaCare was hard at work this past week with this whole Howard Eskin thing. They exposed themselves. Not to go down that road, but they exposed themselves. They finally showed you who WIP is. We're going to punish Howard Eskin. Oh, okay. You suspending him? No. Okay. Have the Eagles fired him from being a sideline reporter when the Sixers and the Phillies don't want him at their own facility for his conduct? In a cancel culture, which I don't believe in, the Eagles didn't. Hey, by the way, they celebrated Pride last month. They celebrate Me Too. They celebrate No More. Do you celebrate sexual assault? Or do you not? Or are you against it? Or what? I'm confused. I know people in this business who have been fired for less. Trust me. So wait. Guy says something on the air, that is a fireable offense. Guy sexually harasses somebody and kicked out of 3 different franchises. 2, to be fair. That's not a fireable offense. I don't know. Hey, my actions. Looking the other way regarding sexual assault. Where else have we seen that? I'm just saying. So the Eagles embrace sexual harassment until further noted. Little off topic, but this is why Doug hasn't even seen his statue in Philly yet. He does not like the way ownership runs the organization, did him dirty after the Super Bowl win, Big Sills. Hey, John, I appreciate that very much. I thought he saw it last year in the rain when they came up and played in the rain. I thought he saw the statue out front. I thought he saw that. I may be mistaken, John. As Buddy would say, if you listen to the fans, you'll be sitting up there with them. I like that, disciple. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Hey, Flexen says Sil's cutting deep. You know, man, Flexen. That's why it's truth, justice, and big Sills. Truth hurts, man. Lying is easy. Lying is easy. Makes everyone feel good. You know, when you lie to somebody, it makes you feel better. Because you're not going knee deep into it. You know what I'm saying? Respect is the result of patience and understanding. The team has no patience and does not understand the game, which is why they view the players as plug and play. They do not cultivate respect. To some extent. To some extent. Let's be honest, the competition in the 70s and 90s, only 4 teams in that era, all the talent from no salary cap. Yeah, well, that's called hitting on your draft picks. Nick and Howard are on that. Prince, come on. Hey, bang, bang, Philadelphia. Well, that's why some teams knew what they were doing in the draft and some teams didn't know what they were doing in the draft. You see what the salary cap has done? It stopped organizations that were really good at the draft from being consistent. And what it did was it created parity so that the shitty teams got moved to the top of the draft and made the league more viable and more parity in it. Because you're right. The Dolphins used to get it right. Just think of the teams that got it right. The Raiders got it right. The Steelers got it right. The Cowboys got it right. To some extent, the Bengals got it right early. They went to 2 Super Bowls. Let's see. Who else back in that day? Minnesota got it right. The Giants, they got it right. Those were teams that all were drafting well. Then you had the Cardinals. You had the shitty Jets. You know, the Rams drafted well too, but not like the Cowboys and Steelers. The Bengals went to 2 Super Bowls, my friend. The Bengals have been to more Super Bowls than actually the Jets have been. And they have been to, let's see, as many Super Bowls as the Bucks. I think so. Okay. Kenny Anderson era, Bengals were very good. They were. I'm not talking great, but they were good in drafting. Paul Brown had put a nice system together, especially when he got the football team. They were a winning team right away when they got that team. I think either in 68 or 69. 49ers, man. I think they put that salary cap in place because of the 49ers' massive success. That 49ers 84 team, 85 team, their second team could have beat 95% of the teams in the National Football League. They never missed on draft picks. I mean, it didn't come till later on when the fraud of known as Carmen Policy, who pretended that he was the guy who built the Niners and not John McVay and Ed DeBartolo and Bill Walsh. Those were the guys that actually put the foundations together on the 49er dynasty. It wasn't Policy, and it wasn't those guys. Those guys cherry-picked off it. Carmen Policy is a modern-day version of Howie Roseman. He benefited off the Andy Reid era and what Andy Reid put in place. The 49ers, man, they were sensational at picking and drafting. Seals, didn't Al Davis want Chuck Noll as the head coach at 69? I think it came down between him and John Madden, but then he wanted to stay in-house, Kyle. Remember something, too. John Madden was the youngest coach ever hired at 32. I think it was 32. He may have been 36 when he was hired to become the head football coach of the Raiders. Mainly Jerry Jones and the Cowboys stood in pause ever since 96 when the salary cap was invented. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Here, I would say this to you. One of the things also you got to remember, the greatest talent evaluator in National Football League, or one of them, between Chuck Noll and Don Shula, Jimmy Johnson's one of them. Coach Johnson, what he did in 5 years, Tom Landry did in 30. He won 2 Super Bowls in 5 years, led to another one, a third. He did that in 5 years. Took Landry 30 to build the Cowboys. Now they went to numerous Super Bowls, but they ran into the Steeler dynasty at the time. Sills, was Eskin charged with anything? Not a fan of Eskin, no. Daniel, no. I'm not talking about, hey, you don't get fired in radio for breaking laws. You get fired for your conduct or something you say on the air. I know people who have DUIs that keep their job. You don't get fired for that. You get fired for inappropriate conduct on premises somewhere. That's why I you know what? Unless someone's driving me, and I rarely do it, I'll have a beer or so, but I don't get hammered at places. You never see a beer in my hand. Like when I went to King of Prussia, I didn't have a beer. I had an iced tea. I don't know. I don't act like that. That's right, 11. 2 things, man. Sexual harassment and driving intoxicated will not be ever anything on my watch. That's not happening. Now, if I'm in a hotel, Big Sills might get drunk on the elevator on his way up to his room. I might be pushing the wrong buttons. Okay, I might get off on the wrong floor here or there because I've done that. But hey, driving in a car with alcohol in me, absolutely never happened. Never happening. Bob Brown, Steve Dumig. Hey, you know what that guy used to do, Bob? Dumig used to call me at my home at 3:30 in the morning. You're a disgrace to the WDAE. The way you act, the way you sound, the way you talk. I go, have another beer, Steve. You fucking drunk. The guy since passed on. They asked me what I thought about it passing on a couple of years ago. You know what I said? You know, man, I really got nothing to say. Nothing. Feel for his wife. She's a nice lady. What about him? I could care less. I could care less. What do you think? Because somebody passes, I'm going to change my tune? Not here, dude. Not here, dude. Oh, no, he was a real good guy. I don't think so. Don't you love those guys? Guy passes away, he changes his tune, and you're like, you regret it immediately. You got to thank every nemesis. That's why I didn't talk shit on him. When they called me when he passed away, I was like, hey, man, feel for his wife. Okay? That's right. Bad luck to talk shit on the dead. I'm not. Hey, each his own. Did Jimmy Johnson recruit Terry Bradshaw to Louisiana Tech? That'll have to check because I know he got a coaching job there. I thought it was a GA job, though, when he went to Tech. Okay? Absolutely unrelated. Who was better, Ray Lewis or Taylor? Two completely. How about this? Ray Lewis is the greatest middle linebacker in the history of the National Football League. Lawrence Taylor is the greatest defensive football player that's ever lived. I saw that Kyrie Jackson. Sad story. I think he was a Bama and Oregon guy. Always hard when we lose one of the brotherhood. And by the way, guys out late. So sometimes the pelt's on the wall for you, man. Ask Jerome. It's just on the wall. There's nothing to do about it. It's just what it is. Eric Andelsack, hit by a truck. weed eating his front lawn next to his mailbox in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Accidents happen, man. It's just, he's out at 3 a.m. I don't care if he was out at 6 p.m. Things happen. And there's no correlation to being out at 3 a.m. during a holiday prior to going and getting ready for camp when you're out with your boys, having a good time on the 4th of July weekend. Most fireworks end at 1 or 2. Had a couple shots somewhere. Got in the car, we're driving home. It's 2:33. Come on, man. Don't make it sound like athletes are infants. They're just like you and me. Happens. Shit happens. It's what it is. You don't legislate anything. Hey, if you're driving around and you're hammered and you kill somebody, that's a different conversation. You're a passenger in a car, and hey, you got if you don't like the driver and he's hammered, you can always get out of the car. I showed you that thing on the back of my NFL Players Association card. Every single one of us, even retired players, can always call for a cab or an Uber, and the NFLPA will pick it up for nothing. It's on the back of my card. I have my wallet down here, but I've showed it to you before. If I was ever drunk at a place, I just called this number, and they'll come pick me up. NFLPA picks it up. Right? I bet it on. You know what I want to do? Before we get to Xander at the bottom, actually, I think I'm going to do those camp things at the bottom here with Xander. Then I'm going to turn around and do them at 4:30 also with Big Sil's random thoughts for the Eagles 2 weeks out to camp. 14 days. Okay? 14 days. I don't use Uber Eats. My daughter uses that. Okay? My daughter uses that. She uses the Uber Eats. When we started the show, I wanted all of you to realize when I said that all of the quarterbacks that you have had since 2000 have all gone through this. Okay? They have all gone through this. Something I heard too, I was listening to Xander, and I think Jeff Kerr was on today, and I was listening to John McMullen. They were talking about the Eagle defense. Eagle defense is not going to look any different. It's going to be the same. There's going to be no difference. Hey, Sills, why do you think the Eagles only have one Super Bowl with having some great talent come through this team? Should the Eagles have been a dynasty? Great question. Yeah. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this for a second. Who's the longest tenured coach that Jeffrey Lurie has had? Andy Reid, right? Okay. He probably didn't know what he was doing when he owned the team. Okay. After that, how many years did Doug Peterson last? 5? 5 years? Does that sound right? How many years did Chip last? 4? How many years how about this? Do you think Nick Sirianni is going to be the head football coach 5 years from now, win or lose? I don't. Even with a resume, probably that will, at least regular season wise, be better than both Chip and Doug. You don't really think that Nick is going to be the head coach? You think he serves past 5 years? No way. No way. Then they're not going to let a guy sit in the building and take victory laps for the organization. Remember something, the further you get removed from Andy, the more it looks like Jeffrey Lurie and Howie built this so-called organization. They had nothing to do with it. The owner did, but Howie had nothing to do with it. Howie was a benefactor from Andy and Joe Banner. And the one thing Howie does poorly is develop quarterbacks. They pay him. They don't know how to coach him. Here's Wentz. Here's Howie's. Get this. By the way, God forbid Hurts goes through the same trajectory. Here was Carson Wentz. Boom. Here's Jalen. Not like this, but because here's Carson Wentz. Here's Jalen. Not so much. There. What if it goes like this? He's right here now. He's he's on the other side of the mountain now. He ain't still climbing. Nobody would suggest that he's still climbing the mountain. That's only a projection. You're only hoping he's climbing the mountain. His seasons have gone like this. Those are facts. That's a fact. It's not a dramatic. It's not dramatic like that. Nick knows his place. He doesn't take victory laps. Yes. Jalen, you know why he doesn't take victory laps? He's not allowed to. He does a really good job at managing Howie. How about this? Every press conference has this in it. Man, Howie really does a really great job. Howie and his people are thorough. They find the right guys, Yeah, assistant coach is wise too. We're really going to do a lot of good things. By the way, if that were me, and my quarterback had told the press in Philly that he didn't know what my job was, I would have fucking went off on him. I would have fucking went off on him. Okay? Went off on him. Nick did a great job by keeping his poise. He did a great job. Wouldn't you have gone off? Right? Would have gone off. I just 11-6 with only four plays and a garbage secondary. We made a mistake hiring incompetent coordinators, and we fixed that. Nothing but greatness ahead. You don't know you fixed that, Twiz. You're assuming that. Correct. You're assuming that. Okay? Hey, you know what? You can hire a great doctor, but if he doesn't fit in the operating room with the people around him, it doesn't matter how good he is. If that thing doesn't plug into the players and the people that are in the locker room, it doesn't matter how good your coaches are. If you don't connect, hey, so wait a minute. Let me get this right. Hey, Twiz, question for you. Do you believe that Vic Fangio is a good coach? Twiz, do you believe Vic's a good coach? Twiz, do you think that Vic Fangio is a good coach? Do all of you think he is? You think he's a good one? I've heard skepticism like this before, and yet, with hard work, you get the job done. Prince goes, I do. Okay. A good coordinator. Solid. Yes. Okay. What happened in Miami? What happened in Miami? He came up with the scheme that everyone is using. Prince, what happened in Miami? Injuries? Didn't sound like that to me when the players are talking the way they are. And I'm not giving them a pass either, but they had a sack record. There was some success. Players all bitched that this guy didn't know what he was doing. What happened? He had Jalen Ramsey. He had that other corner on the other side. Didn't work there, though, but it'll work in Philly, right? Miami set the franchise record in sacks. Then what happened, Daniel? Why did the coach in the organization want to move on? And many of the people in the organization, especially down in South Florida, are saying he just didn't fit in. If he was so successful, why didn't they want him back? Players didn't buy in, says Prince. Okay. Miami soft. Could be. Okay. Hey, Philly, you want to talk about soft? How about getting crushed by the Bucks and giving 31 points up to a shitty Buck offense who scored 9 points the week before to Carolina? You want to talk soft? That's soft. Miami got exposed to good teams. Hold on. I love Miami. Learn from any failure. Well, geez, I hope so. He's been in the league 45 years. Because Fangio has a mindset like you, and that's not McDaniel's atmosphere. That's the point, Daniel. That's the point. I completely agree. It's a mindset. See, the Eagles are not going to be gauged by their success this year. They're going to be gauged this year by how they can dig themselves out of trouble once trouble hits. In 22, they had no trouble. In 23, they hit a roadblock and they couldn't fix it. Will these two coaches be able to fix a problem? No one knows. I don't know. And will the players be able to buy in that they know what they're doing? Hey, everybody talks really great in pajamas. Vic failed in Miami. You'll say, he failed? Well, players didn't like him. He didn't like the players, it seems. He didn't like the culture. The head coach and him didn't seem to get eye to eye. Now, Vic Fangio has an advantage because in 22 he was in the building. That's a huge advantage. Not saying, hey, by the way, I'm down the line on this. I'm not either way here. I'm just telling you, before you say that this is going to work, his last stop, he was theoretically pushed out. And they did break the sack record. But the players, Sills, Miami guys, you heard him. I agree with you. His last two jobs he had, outside of being a consultant in Philly, he was fired. Coach of the Broncos and coordinator with the Dolphins. Do I think he's a solid DC? I do. Do I think that he's a no shit guy? I do. Completely do. Right? Seals, the Eagles are not contemplating a new scheme that the Dolphins were not willing to buy into. Well, Prince, shit, they broke the sack record in Miami. They did something right. They've had some legendary defenses down there with some legendary players. Kim Bocamper, Jason Taylor. They've had a bunch of really good football players down there. Bob Baumgartner. I mean, and they broke a sack record. Wasn't like they sucked too bad. And by the way, Brian Johnson coordinated the shit out of him when they came to Philly. I think if Eagle DC job wasn't open, Fangio would still be in Miami. I don't know about that because I don't think Vic really likes that personality down there. As a matter of fact, I think you got to have a special appetite to coach with Coach McDaniels. Hey, I'm not suggesting to you that doesn't look like a new type of environment to be around. You know, the guy shows up in one of those little box cars, the box. He's got a Hello Kitty backpack on. You know, he's running away. I mean, he does some really weird things, but when it comes to looking at some of his offensive skill set players, they're always open. The quarterback passed for more yards than any quarterback last year, and that's a guy that doesn't have a big arm. Brian Johnson got carried by our talent. His play calling sucked. Oh, I see. So he beat Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes. And then when you took the job away from him, your team imploded. Okay. So wait a minute. He loses to Purdy and Dak. He split with the Cowboys, so that's not awful. That's kind of normal. The only real bad blemish on his resume last year was what? The Niner game. So he loses to Purdy. Team went to the Super Bowl too. And he beat the other participant in the Super Bowl, Mahomes, correct? He wasn't the coordinator in Seattle. He wasn't good in Denver, and the Dolphins defense was getting torched just like our defense, and the Dolphins cannot win big games. Hey, didn't the Dolphins put up 70 on that Denver Bronco defense? They put up 70 on them. Pretty much with the guys that Vic had drafted, right? Is that right? No, I don't think they'd put 70 up with Vic being the coordinator. But it's interesting take that you think, okay, right? Could make the argument we lost the Super Bowl because Vic was helping out. I no. When you're a consultant like that, you're on the sidelines, dude. You're not really in the huddle so much. Those consulting guys, I mean, I'm not putting that on him. That was an organizational thing, man. Jonathan Gannon was out house hunting. He was not focused at his job. And you had to be completely focused against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and he wasn't. It cost you because you had inexperienced coaches. I'm not saying Gannon's not good, but he's inexperienced. He was consulting the offense, not the defense. Why do you think he was consulting the offense? Because he was going against, most notably, the defenses because he was a defensive coordinator on the offensive side. I think that's pretty standard. I'm not going to bring an offensive assistant coach in to be a consultant to my offensive coordinator. It defeats the purpose. I'm going to bring in a defensive coordinator for my offensive coordinator so that they can bang things off of one another. You don't bring two coordinators in because then you got a problem in the building with voices. I mean, that's why Vic was on the offensive side. Vic was on the offensive side because you don't want to have any problems with your coordinator. Okay. Xander's been watching this for years. I wonder what his take is on this. Let's bring him in here, the co-host of Birds 365.
Big Sales, what's up, brother?
Oh, good, brother. How was your 4th of July, my friend?
Fantastic, man. Great holiday, great time with the family. Got to hang out with everybody in the family. All the siblings were around, which is always a great thing. Don't get to see them every day like we used to, obviously. So great holiday, a little good time off to recharge here and get ready for the training camp. Excited, man.
14 days away from today. How's that for you?
Yeah, man. It's right there, right? 60 days away from kickoff, 15 days away from training camp. Pretty amazing stuff, how quick time moves, right, brother?
Absolutely, man. So I started the program out today. You know what? Because I heard this comment and I read that. I don't really know who Chris Carlin is.
Yeah, I don't either. I never heard of the dude before this.
He said that he worked in Philly. He knows, and I'm paraphrasing here now because I'm not going to go back and read the entire context of it. But he said that Jalen needed to mend fences, and there was issues with him and his way that he handled himself after he got his contract after the Super Bowl. I didn't get any sense of that. Okay, I thought that was a guy talking from 37,000 feet. And Reuben Frank, as you and I mentioned last week, said this is more of a turnover issue. So you know what I did, Xander? I went back and I thought about your quarterback since 2000. McNabb takes heat for his leadership. Wentz takes heat for his leadership. Vic took heat for his leadership. People forget Foles round 1. You dealt him for Sam Bradford. Then he came back for round 2. But people forget that guy had a 26 touchdown to 2 interception. And then he sent him to the quarterback killer, Jeff Fisher in St. Louis with the Rams. He took heat for leadership. Obviously, the guy who won the Super Bowl for you the second time around. And now here we are with Hurts. Is it me? But is this not just a revolving door? It just doesn't matter what year it is or what the quarterback is. There's always question marks on the quarterback in Philadelphia when it comes to their leadership. This is more. So to your point, what you said a couple days ago, this is a little bit more organizationally and a little bit more media made up.
Yeah, I think it's, but I think it's, I mean, by the way, you bring up a great point. I mean, every quarterback since 2000, I mean, the one common denominator here isn't even Howie Roseman. It's really Jeffrey Lurie, but I think it's also a combination of a lot of things, right? I mean, this is an intense sports city. It's not like other places where, you root for your team and you hope they win and you cheer everybody on and you go home when you're done and you hope they win. Like, it's not like that. Like, we care. We care in Philadelphia a lot. And it's tough to learn to play with, I think, in a way, especially when you get the type of contract that Jalen got, when you get the type of contract Carson Wentz got. But boy, you're right. I mean, every single one of them, you got to wonder. I mean, is it them or is it the organization at some point? But the one thing I will say about Jalen Hurts that's interesting to me is I'm not going to go out and say what Chris Carlin said. I don't know if what he said is true or not, or what to make of it, because we don't know the inside scoop. We really don't. So it's dumb to speculate on that. But what I will say is it goes back to what somebody said on your show, and it goes back to one of the programs we had last year with Derek Gunn, when he used to say, learning to play with this contract is a big thing.
Phil Simms.
Boomer Esiason, or was it
Boomer Esiason?
Boomer Esiason said on the show. I mean, he did a lot of stuff last offseason. Remember, he was in the TV show, he was in the music video, he was in all advertising deals all over the thing. And that's great. I'm not knocking him for any of that. I'm just saying, I guess it's fair to say, well, like I said, I don't have sources. I don't know if this is true. It's fair to question potentially if he didn't resonate with his teammates as much as he did the year before, when he's making $1 million as a second-round draft pick. And in a way, he's Philly. He's the underdog. He wasn't supposed to be the starter. He wasn't supposed to be the great quarterback. He wasn't supposed to be an MVP candidate, right? Now all the flowers are given to him. The money's given him. He's the star. And I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that perspective makes sense. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think a bigger point here is definitely what you said about every quarterback. I mean, every single one. Every single one.
Do you think that Philadelphia is a city that is the quickest to turn on a quarterback than any other city in the country.
No, I
That
don't think that's fair to say at all. I really
how long
don't.
did it take to turn on Wentz?
Yeah,
2 years?
but the Wentz story wasn't just us turning on Carson Wentz. In a way, Carson Wentz turned on us. I mean, when you shrug at winning a Super Bowl because you didn't have the chance to win it, and some of this stuff came out later. So, I wasn't a Wentz hater. I'm still not a Wentz hater. We don't win that Super Bowl in 2017 without Carson
Correct.
Wentz. If you're a logical fan, you know that. So I'm not a Wentz hater. I'm just saying, I don't think it was like, hey, the guy had a bad game and all of a sudden now Philly hates him. I mean, there's also many examples where it's been the opposite. I mean, we could have booed Trey Turner out of town into oblivion. Now we did for a little bit, but then you ride for him and you see what it does. I mean, Alec Boehm, another Philly example. Guy said, I effing hate this place. We rode behind him. Now he loves playing here. Like, I think it's just a tough love thing. I mean, it's like your brother, man. You don't, it's not just like, hey, he's and ha-has. There's a lot of toughness to it and realness to it. And we want you to succeed and we want you to effort and show it. And we know you're not going to play your best game every game. We know that. But if you ride for us, we ride for you 10 times harder. And that's always the way the city's been. And I don't think we've ever changed that. But
So if you have a mentality like a Ben Simmons or a Wentz, that's the guys that they turn on.
I don't even know about Wentz, man. I really don't. Because remember, this organization, for all of its good, it has its faults. And one of the faults that anybody, John McMullen especially, will call out is that our owner likes scapegoats. That's part of the reason he loves Howie Roseman, because when stuff goes wrong, he can blame
Angelo
Howard.
too.
And there's the quarterback. And there's a lot of times when I think they create narratives, whether intentionally or not, that make people look worse. Like, I get it. I wasn't happy with the way it ended for Wentz. But put yourself in his shoes. You're a guy that rose to the top of the game. You played like an MVP candidate. You got paid the big money. You came from North Dakota and you rose to the top of the echelon of your sport. Then you blow out your ACL and you have to sit there and watch it happen with you on the bench. It's human. I'm not saying it's the way to handle it. All I'm saying is it's human. It makes sense, right? I mean, it's tough. I get it. And you have to be a good teammate because you're the highest paid guy in the room and that requires you to be a bigger person. But to sit here and say like it does make sense. It makes complete sense. That would drive me up a wall.
I'm going to tell you how I would have acted. I would have felt great for every single person in the room if they won the Super Bowl. But if that were me, I would absolutely not want Foles to have had the type of game that he had. And I know because it's a reflection of what my future is going to be in that building. And more importantly, how I'm going to be perceived. Is that a shitty attitude? Like you said, that's human nature. When someone gets fired, Xander, they don't want the next guy to come in and do well.
Right.
And fucking take the company to another level. It's very rare that a guy goes, hey, man, congratulations to you. Hey, you're going to say all the right things because you want to be and throw it out there and be a professional but internally, I'm not wishing you well. I'm just not.
Yeah, I think where Wentz was worse, and I think the Foles
he expressed it on his face.
No, it wasn't even the
You
Super
saw it in the
Bowl
locker
year,
room
though.
when he was like moping in the locker room.
I think
they showed that video footage. I was like, bad move, kid.
I think it was more the next year, to be honest. Like then the Super Bowl year. Like that is understandable. But when you go into the next season now and you have the problems and then, Foles was still there and then he had the concussion. It was just honestly, dude, a lot went wrong for Carson at the end. Like it wasn't all Carson created. I mean,
how do you think the organization handled it?
I thought they scapegoated him a little harder than he needed to be scapegoated. I mean, remember, they came out with the whole shtick. You remember when Nick Sirianni got fired. The question wasn't, what are you going to do to make Jalen Hurts great? The question was, what are you going to do to repair Carson Wentz?
Oh, yeah. Right.
That was the question in the media. And then this whole dragged on thing went on, and they obviously traded him later that offseason. I don't want to put all the blame on Carson Wentz, but back to the main point about, the leadership of the quarterback in Philadelphia. I mean, it's fair. It's fair to view that from your perspective as an outsider of the city and say, damn, every quarterback here is getting chastised for the same exact thing. At what point do you point the finger at somebody other than the player? Unless you're just going to say we've had 5 straight quarterbacks that all have the same personality flaw, which that
Right.
doesn't really add up.
That doesn't add up. I mean, McNabb here, and I said this about Andy. Dude, Andy Reid has done more for this organization than anybody in the history of the organization because he set the template of how you're going to act, how the offense is going to look, the investment in the O-line. All of that stuff was by Reid. And then the benefactors have been the owner and have been the general manager, Howie Roseman. Let's not forget something. Ever since Chip Kelly had his power stripped from him, that's when the organization from above has grabbed control of the locker room. Prior to that, it was Doug. No. Prior to that, it was Andy, and it was a little Chip. And after that, every single coach. Like, do you really believe Nick Sirianni is going to last 5 years plus as the head coach in Philly when the last coaches you've had haven't?
I think he'll last because here's why. I think the team is too good this year, and I think they're going to have a playoff win this year, and I think that will get him back for another year. So that would be year 5. Now, if they don't succeed this year, I mean, he's going to be out the door. But also to the point earlier, Doug's wings were clipped directly from the Chip Kelly era. He was the first coach hired out of that, and then he takes us to the promised land with all the things around. I mean, Howie Roseman wasn't operating at the same level of a GM as he is now when Doug was here. I mean, that team was good, but to say that our talent now is superior.
22 was way better as a talented group than what that 17 team was.
The talent that Howie's assembled on this team now is just it's incredible. But yeah, I mean, you're right. And there's a lot of things that Andy Reid set up, and now, Howie and Jeffrey are taking the flowers for it, which, you can't knock them.
Okay.
He didn't get the job done, right? And ultimately, I'm an Andy Reid guy, but he ultimately didn't get us there. He didn't win us what we wanted him to win us. But you are right. I mean, most of the organizational philosophies they have, the things that they really care about, came from Andy Reid. I mean, even the trench stuff, right? Like Howie loves the trenches. That's not because Howie woke up one day and said, I want to be I want to build in the trenches. I mean, that started with even before Andy, Joe Banner, Andy Reid, like that was
Howard Mudd,
right? Like all those things before. So, it's interesting. I mean, Andy definitely set up the foundation for us to be as successful as we are now. Now they've done a good job. Everybody else, I think Howie's done a great job with the roster. To his credit, and that's probably the reason Nick will remain, right? I mean, how can you lose with this type of roster? It's almost hard.
Here's something else too, Xander. Somebody brought this up earlier, and I love the question. Who do you think is more valuable to the organization right now? Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts? When you're looking at these two men and how they operate the organization, how they look at him, and knowing the stuff that I just talked about, how they've questioned leadership with every one of these quarterbacks. Now, they've also had interchangeable head coaches. So get this, there's no coincidence that the coaches get changed out, the quarterbacks get questioned for leadership, and yet the same people stay intact in the front office. All those guys are 17 to 28-year guys that have been here with the owner since 2000. So I ask you, at the end of this year, say what you just said. He has a good year. They get to the second round, NFC title game. Hypothetically, Jalen plays a lot better, but not to a point where you go, I don't know if he's the guy. But he had a good, decent season. It's nothing that you're going to write home about. Nick, he brought him to the NFC title game. Can it be where the owner goes like this? Nick proved it to me that he's a coach that could take a team to the Super Bowl. I'm not so sure about the quarterback. They've shown you they've moved off these guys.
Yeah. So there's basically 2 ways to look at this. I mean, if you look at it from a business, obviously Jalen Hurts is the guy because one guy's making $51 million and has the highest paid contract, on the team, and the other guy's making $7 million, and they've already proven that they can interchange that person without a cap hit, without those crazy things that you'd have to do with Jalen Hurts. But the second part of what you said is also very true. If there's adversity here, or if Nick proves that he has what it takes to lead a group of men deep, and you still have questions about the quarterback, yeah, they've shown that they're going to move on, but I don't see it. I think, look, I'm confident in Jalen Hurts because I've seen it. He took us to the Super Bowl. He played like an MVP player in the Super Bowl. Did he fumble the ball? Yeah, yes, I get it. It's football, man. Shit happens. You're not going to have a perfect game. But he showed me at the pinnacle when Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, maybe one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play the game, is on the other field lighting it up. Jalen Hurts can go toe-to-toe. Now, he didn't do it last year, and I'm not giving him a hall pass for that. He has to get back to that level. But I don't think the organization feels right now about him like they felt about Carson Wentz at all. I think they're very confident. They're very comfortable with where he is. And to answer the question, I would say Jalen Hurts is much more important to this team than Nick Sirianni.
Let me give you a couple. I was going to wait, but let me give you a couple Big Sills observations going into camp, 14 days out. Just for me, by the end of camp, I want to see this and where this is at. Hurts and Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier. Does he get on the page with Jalen Hurts by the end of camp and ready for September 6th? That, to me, is one of the bigger questions this training camp. But the way that they run training camp, Xander, they don't believe in exhibition football. They don't really believe in practicing a lot. How are they going to get that dynamic and get out to a fast start if they go about their business? Do you think they're going to change the way they prepare for the upcoming season, or are they going to go status quo?
See, it's interesting because this is the first real potential for a power struggle, and it's not who you think. Nick Sirianni does not want less practices. Nick Sirianni does not want to go into a preseason game and not play a single person. That's organizational. That comes from upstairs, where we're not going to risk our biggest investments, our best players, analytics staff. So that's where I think, that's what I was honestly, Dan, I was surprised by the Vic Fangio hire for this reason. Because Vic is a staunchy dude. He's not going to change his ways. And he's like, I don't care you drafted a guy in the first round. If he's not playing good, I'm not going to play him. And that goes against what the organization likes. He's like, I need my guys on the practice field. That's against a little bit of what the organization is. So it's interesting. That's where I think the power struggle is here. But remember, you have a head coach, who is potentially a lame duck right now. If he doesn't succeed this year, he's as good as gone here in Philadelphia. So in a way, if this offense doesn't get going early, his job is on the line. His career is on the line in a way. So how much is he going to push the front office to let them practice, to let them do what they need to do to get on the same page? Or does he risk going into the season with no preseason, minimal practice, minimal hitting, and it takes 8 weeks or 10 weeks to get this thing going? That's a big risk. That's a bigger risk for Nick Sirianni than it is for the front office. So I wonder how much he's going to push. And I think it's going to tell you a lot about who's in control. Now we know who's in control, but
if they break camp early, I'll know that they're going status quo.
I think the preseason games will be a bigger tell. Like if they don't roll out anybody in preseason, it's the same thing. The organization is calling all the shots on that stuff, and potentially you could see the offense stagger at the start, and you almost can't even blame them, man. Like, how can you get an offense, get together 10 times, 15 times, 20 times in the offseason for a 45-minute session and expect them to compete with the upper echelon of the NFL?
Impossible.
It doesn't work, right? So it's like you can't even. How can I even criticize Jalen Hurts or Kellen Moore or Nick Sirianni if they're not given the leeway they need to be able to create an offense that works? So it's interesting. We will see what happens, but I think there's a lot in the line for Nick Sirianni when you're talking about that.
I heard you guys talking about Barkley. The way you're talking, the way John's talking, you think they're going to use him exactly the same way as Miles Sanders, but it's going to be better. Is that what we're saying?
No, that's
because
not what
I'm still not sold his role yet. I don't know what his role is. What's his role going to be?
Nobody
Is
knows.
it a moving curve role? Like early they get out while the offense is getting its feet wet, then they slow him up. I mean, what is exactly his role in this
Yeah.
process?
Admittedly, my thought process on Saquon, John, thanks for the super chat, man.
He
Appreciate
should
that.
not be the OC. He was 2-5 when he was OC.
Yeah. Anyway, my thought process on Saquon Barkley admittedly has changed a little bit because John's added a lot of perspective. You've added a lot of perspective, and my mind's kind of going back and forth on what they're going to do with him here. So I'll stick to what I've been saying. I think the situational impact of Saquon Barkley is going to matter a lot more than even whether they throw him the ball or whether he gets 1,500 yards. Like, we got to the Super Bowl. You know who let us down immediately? Miles Sanders. Like, you got late in games last year. We couldn't close out games because we didn't have a good running back. Like, that wasn't DeAndre Swift's role, or at least that's not how he was used. So situationally, I think Saquon can really help if they use him properly. And I'm not even talking about creating him, making him a passing guy, making him wide receiver 3, running crazy swing routes. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about traditional running back, get us yards on first down, get us yards on third and short or whatever it might be. Set up the play action if we need it with Kellen Moore because we know he likes that. It's not really Jalen's game, but it will help open up the passing game and have that situational impact. When we need you to close out a game, you got to be the bell cow. You got to take the ball and you got to run with it. You got to get first downs. So, look, I'm optimistic on the player. I don't know if they're going to use him right. They've been a weird organization with running backs. They really have. I mean, my favorite tandem was the Super Bowl year that we won, not 22. When we had Jay Ajayi, we traded for him. We brought in LeGarrette Blount, and we had an undrafted free agent in Corey Clement, who's out of Glassboro, New Jersey, 45 minutes away from where I am. I mean, that was the best trio that we've had, and you had a guy for each moment. You had your bruiser. Corey Clement caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. He was great in that game. Then you had Jay Ajayi, your shifty back. I don't know why they've gotten away from that. I really don't. Like, we have 3 running backs right now. We have Saquon Barkley, you have Kenny Gainwell, you have Will Shipley. They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, there's different levels of talent in the room, but they're all the same thing. They're more of a gadgety, fidgety, not north to south guy. They're kind of a shiftier, jukey back. They can catch the ball in the backfield. Now Saquon can block, which is great. Miles and DeAndre were not good at that, so I think that's a big help. But again, we didn't pay $12 million to Saquon Barkley to block, so it'll be interesting to see. It's one of my biggest things I'm watching Big Sills going into the season is what is Saquon Barkley's role on this football team?
I don't know how they're going to define that. I thought about something during the holidays on that wide receiver 3 conversation we had last week.
Yeah.
And I said that's the slot position. I'd like to see them utilize the slot position, not with a third wideout, but with your 2 stars. That means you get production out of that wide receiver 3 spot, put someone else over on the numbers, and rotate my 2 biggest stars in that 3 wide receiver hole. Because what I don't want it to be, again, Xander, for 2 years in a row, I don't want it to be a vacant position where you're doing nothing with it and you're playing 10 versus 11. They need to utilize that because it's a mismatch problem when you put a more talented player there, because in the slot, you're going against the lesser talented guys
and it
that
makes
are
it
on
harder
that defense. They've got, my opinion, I want to see how creative they're going to be at that position.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think to be honest, I think they're going to do kind of what you're saying here, because I think Kellen Moore this is where I like Kellen. I think he's a little bit more open to the creativity and putting AJ, Devontae, motion, stuff like that. So I think it's a good point. I wouldn't be surprised if they go there, but then I worry about who you're putting on the numbers, because look, I get what you're saying. Put a guy out there, he's a decoy, but
if he can't read, at least move the players around where you have to move the defense around.
Right, because it keeps them on their toes. It keeps them guessing. It keeps them looking for different things. That's a no-brainer. I would agree with that fully. But you also need somebody out there that has some level of threat. I'm not talking. I don't need. And then, like last time I said this, someone was like, "We have AJ and Devontae. Like, you're not going to get touches to them." I don't even care about the touches. I don't care if he doesn't touch the ball all season. but the illusion for the defense is important for your top guys. Last year, when Quez Watkins started sucking eggs, nobody even thought about him. Jalen stopped thinking about him. And that created this onus where by the end of the season, what were we? We were as predictable as it gets on offense because you knew when that ball, if Jalen dropped back to throw, you knew where he was going with the ball. It was one of two players. That was it. Or he was running out to the right. That was the game. That was the offense late in the year last year. So if you have another player out there, even if he doesn't catch the ball, he needs to have the illusion that he can break the defense's back if they let him. And that will make more opportunities for our star players. But you're right. I mean, I'd love to see AJ Brown in that slot, man, or Devontae Smith. I think both would be tremendous in there. Let's see though, man. I think we need another body on the outside. I don't really care who it is at this point. I think we need one more receiver that's at least something. I don't think Paris Campbell is striking fear in anybody.
Two last ones here for you. So would it be a concern level for you if Hurts is in the middle of training camp and still struggling after OTAs, mini camp, everything in the offseason, where you're hearing people and saying that, he's behind a little bit, he's slow? Would that be a concern to the organization and to you that if he continues his struggles as he's going through minicamp?
Yeah, see, this is a tough one because I'm going to ride the fence on it, and you're going to call me a politician, which is fine. But how can we say what we said earlier, right, about the offense and having the players on the field and enough practice time to get things going and all of the things that you need to get in rhythm in a new offense? Doesn't matter how good of a quarterback you are. If you're getting a new offense, there's time, new players, new coaches, new things. There's time it takes. So how could I knock them in training camp if they're not even giving them the lenience to get out there and learn and get in rhythm? But on the other side of it, yeah, I'm going to be a little concerned. I mean, remember, we're coming off a 1-6 stretch. Hurts didn't look great down the stretch. He wasn't really into it. I mean,
hasn't looked good in the offseason.
Hasn't looked good. I mean, granted, I don't put much stock in minicamp, but you're right. You will add that into the equation. Now it's more practice he doesn't look good in. Yeah, it's fair to be concerned about it. I think I'll probably be exactly like that. I'm going to be like, I'm a little concerned, but I don't want to put too much stock on it. Let me see how it looks in the season.
Last one for you. What's more of a concern for you, the right guard position or how the secondary will be shuffled out?
I think the secondary. Maybe I've gotten spoiled with Jeff Stoutland, but it just seems like it always works, man. It just seems like for the last 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, we just always have it figured out on the offensive line. Now there's levels. Some days are, you're the top and some days you're not, but I just don't have much concern with the offensive line, whether they go, I don't know if it's going to be Tyler Steen. We'll see. He hasn't really done much to win the job. Now they're kind of giving it to him, but he was a tackle in college, that's what.
When Stoutland says that he's shown me.
Right.
Right.
I'll listen to that.
I'm taking, he gets the benefit of the doubt of any coach in that building.
Yeah, that's fair. So that's why I would say the secondary. But honestly, dude, I feel better about the secondary now than I did about last year going in with Darius Slay and James Bradbury. I think
the problem is going to be getting the right combination, though.
Yes, it's very true. We've been talking about it. Like, who's it going to be?
Yeah.
And they're probably going to try and
how much youth, how much experience? What's the Bradbury factor? Still on the club? Are they keeping him?
I want Keely Ringo in there, man. I really do. I think he is the physical. He brings the aspect to the cornerback room that you're missing with Darius Slay. He's got the experience, the pedigree, all those things. But Darius Slay is not a tackler. He's not a physical guy. And I'm not knocking him. He's 34. I mean, it's tough to go there. But that's what Keely Ringo brings. I'd like to see him out there. But then you have two high draft picks and one first rounder. I mean, where do they slot in? How much do
There's another battle between Vic and the front office because Vic's going to play the best dudes. He said that he's going to play the best guys.
It's true. You're
right.
Darius
Slay said it. He's going to play the best guys.
Yeah, and that's where I wonder how much of this is going to be drawn out into the season. And I think you're gonna learn a lot, but we'll never know the intricacies. Like if Quinyon Mitchell's out there and he shouldn't be, now I think he should be. I mean, John has said he's looked pretty good, so we'll see. But if he's out there, I don't think Vic's going to be like, oh yeah, I wanted Keely, but the organization told me. You know what I mean? Like, we're never going to know. We're never going to find out. But I feel pretty good about the back end, honestly. I think we have a bunch of young players that have the potential to be something. Now, there's that word potential. I get why you don't like it. It's a fair thing to not like, but that's where we're at right now. I mean, when you draft 2 young guys, that's all you can be in, you know? I mean, you can't, we didn't go and sign somebody. We drafted 2 guys. Keely Ringo's coming into his second year. He guys showed some promise last year, and I think he has a high upside. I think if he stayed in school, he would have been drafted above Quinyon Mitchell this year. Maybe would have fell to the Eagles in the first round. But look, a lot of young guys, a lot of talent in the room. The biggest thing is going to be the communication with the Fangio defense. A lot of moving parts on defense. You know, Slay talked about that on that podcast he was on, Chris Long's. So we'll see. I mean, I would say that the corners are a bigger concern than the offensive line just because of Jeff Stoutland.
Angelo Cataldi's coming on at the bottom of the hour. How you doing?
Very excited to hear hear Big Mangy.
I can't wait to have that conversation with him about some of the conversations that we just talked about with the quarterback, because Xander, it's totally true here. Every single quarterback that you've had since 2000 has gone through the same BS with his leadership is questioned. They don't really, outside of McNabb, every other quarterback has had a short term in their development. And since 17, the organization, I mean, are they coaching him right is going to be the big fundamental this year. So, hey, by the way, great stuff as always. Don't forget to catch Xander, Birds 365. Xander, where are we on the like list right now? By the way, I said Angelo Cataldi at 4:30. I appreciate it. By the way, 14 days out to the start of training camp.
207 on the likes picture. No, 96. Sorry.
96. All right, guys. We got to pick that up a little bit. Halfway through the program, we're trying to get to 200 likes. Xander, great stuff. I appreciate it. We'll catch you tomorrow, man. Thank you again for coming aboard.
Yep. See everybody. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Appreciate you all. Love you all.
And keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
the greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sills National Football Show. Yeah, I got blocked by Deion Sanders over the holidays. I don't know why. I didn't add him in any way. I said he'd win 4 games this year, and I said that his kid has the makings of Jamarcus Russell. I didn't add him. I guess sometimes when you have a kid, no question about it, I understand. You get a little sensitive. I see why LeBron James is a little sensitive. I've never seen a stat line, 22 minutes, 4 points, and somebody thought that was cool to post. I'm like this, that guy's terrible. Nobody in their right mind thinks that guy's good. And they gave him $7.9 million in guarantees because he's LeBron James's kid. More power to LeBron for doing that. But don't ever try to tell me that someone doesn't deserve something because you have no place any longer to make that comment. And look, nepotism, would I do it for my kid? Sure. Absolutely. No problem. I get it. But when you're criticizing others by saying this guy doesn't belong on that team, this person, you have no room to talk because, again, if you can't take it. So now he's blocking Rachel Nichols too, LeBron James, because he was critical of the way the Lakers. I mean, hey, man, when you make that kind of money and you have that much influence over your sport, my daughter said something to me years ago. If you have an opinion, be prepared to have it challenged. Some of the athletes today, this is why Deion doesn't really get it. Deion wants everybody to kiss his ass, love his program, love his kids, everything they're doing. And if you don't, you're a hater. Well, that's not the case. That's not the case. Your program had a losing record. Okay? Your number one priority should be winning, not what people think of you. Who gives a shit what people think? Angelo Cataldi will be with us at the bottom of the hour. I mean, I do a maniac. Shador is day 3 talent and day 1 hype, Mike. And day 1 hype. Mark, appreciate it, man. Me too. I'm shocked he blocked me. I have so many of my friends. Well, it could be also because a lot of the love that's coming from some of my ex-players and ex-teammates from the University of Miami. Stapp's up there now. And a lot of them are going up there. Rock was up there as well and showing a lot of love to the Colorado Buffaloes football program. But at the end of the day, I don't support that program. I support one program right here. That's it. I cover others. I don't support any other program but the University of Miami. Okay. My love affair with the program is different than how, and by the way, I'm more critical too. So I don't give a shit about the Colorado football program. I could care less. Okay. Hey, one more thing about that Hard Knocks story. One more thing about that, about Joe Shonin, the way he's talking. You know, I heard John say, you know, most people in the media should understand that there's really heart-to-heart conversations that people have about players. He's playing to the cameras. That's not a heart-to-heart conversation when he says, I'm not handing the ball off to a $10 million, $12 million running back. He was justifying him moving off of Saquon Barkley. And to Xander and his point, do I think they should have stuck with him? No. I get it. Organizations move off of people. They want to rebuild. Not a problem. You just let them walk out the building and then you bitch about it? And you're still talking about it? And then you're also talking about a quarterback and Daniel Jones, who you gave $40 million a year to? You could have picked a 50-year option up, paid him $18.5. Instead, you screwed that up, gave him a 3-year contract at $140 a year, and now you're in a position where you have buyer's remorse. Absolutely, Yale. He knew the cameras were on him. He was constantly trying to justify himself in front of the camera. Get this, those aren't heart-to-heart conversations that general managers are having in front of a camera. You actually think that guy was being transparent, knowing full well that the cameras were on him? Give me a break. He was justifying his job to the owner, John Mara. So when John Mara watches it, oh, that was his thinking? I guess. So wait a minute. You really think if somebody was recording you, do you really believe that you would be telling the inner workings of how you operate so that you could give away organizational information on how you talk to and for players? By the way, if I was a general manager of another team and I was a scout or I was an agent and I saw Joe Schoen talk like that, that'd not be a place I want to send my guy. Well, the Giants are out. That stuff was phony. I mean, John McMullen, who I have great respect for, thinks that conversation was real, knowing full well he's on tape. I mean, who does he think he is? Nixon? Nobody in the world believes that was a heart-to-heart conversation about Saquon Barkley in front of a camera. Nobody. General managers have real-life conversations. Not in front of a camera, they don't. Howie doesn't. Howie got asked a question about Hassan Reddick. So do you really think Howie Roseman would go on tape and have them tape him say, here's why we got rid of Reddick? How many people believe that they would do that? Do you think Howie Roseman will ever be taped telling the truth how he deals with personnel and coaches organizationally? Do you? How many people believe that? That Howie would allow himself to be taped in how he does business behind the scenes? What do you think? Yes or no? But Joe Schoen is having a personal conversation about how he deals with personnel. Okay. Not to go knee deep into that, but you're bananas if you think that wasn't for the cameras. You're not going to give away the recipe. Absolutely, Forrest Hill. You're not going to give away internal ways of how you deal with players. And again, the idea and the overall umbrella that moving off of Barkley, okay, they picked his option up. And guess what they did? Then they turned around and they said, here, goodbye. Then they bitched about it because the Eagles, they said, basically jumped the gun on, wait, you weren't going to sign him? What was your complaint? You know why? Because the Giants got a lot of heat in the media for letting Barkley walk out the building. That's why Schoen did that. Boomer Esiason and WFAN and the entire media in that market were killing the Giants. That's why he did that, because he was trying to justify him moving off it. John Mayer can't be happy, Yale. Seals, would you match the Eagles hard knock? Would you watch Eagles Hard Knocks like a hawk and pick apart everything? RTF, I wouldn't believe anything that the Eagles put on tape, which would make it interesting. I would completely. Howie's not going to let people know how he works. That's an advantage, an organizational advantage for other teams to see how he operates. Nobody knows how many phone calls he picks up and calls people every day. That's still something that people don't know. How many phone calls does he take a day? How many calls does he make a day? What position is he looking at? You think Howie Roseman is going to be out there right now in front of a camera showing you what position he's looking at? If I'm a general manager on another team and Howie Roseman calls me, Howie needs a lineman. Okay, that price tag just went up. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you give the disadvantage to yourself by going on tape and saying, I need an O-lineman? And then get this. He says, Patrick Mahomes couldn't win with our old line. Well, he's taking a shot at Dave Gettleman. He's taking a shot at people in the organization. You know what he's also doing? Justifying what mess he has to clean up when he got here or in New York. The guy was an asshole. He was telling you about the mess he had to clean. He's like a politician. Those were not heartfelt comments made. Those were television production comments. Nobody gives you the advantage. I needed an edge rusher. Okay, everybody around after I watched Hard Knocks, you call me for an edge rusher instead of trading a guy for a 5th rounder. He's now a 3rd rounder. I know, Corey, still blaming Gettleman subtly by saying Patrick Mahomes couldn't win with this O-line. It's a shot at Dave Gettleman. How many years has Dave Gettleman been out of there? 3? Dude, you sound like one of these guys running for president. Guy's been out of the White House 4 years. Where are we going here? One dude was saying Barkley will run better behind Philly, Detroit offensive lines. Of course he will. Get better talent and a better quarterback. Even worse logic, completely flawed. Eagles paying Hurts $50 million to hand off to Barkley. Maybe they should pay Jones more. Hey, if that's what he's implying, Jalen, no wonder the Giants are, like you said, C24. They're a 115-1 team. That team's going to be awful this year. Marco Shonen did not read the market correctly. Well, so far, Joe Shonen has been a pathetic GM. The Waller move, the extension on Jones, allowing Dable to fire Wink Martindale. I mean, what move have they made? Let's see. Brian Burns, I like it. The drafting of Tavon Thibodeau looks like a pretty good move. The left tackle looks better. Okay, still, the other 4 guys are below par, though, in my opinion. The Giants. Seals, when you played, did you have guys try to hang with you who weren't players but felt they were? That's Roseman. No, because in most organizations, the front office guys don't hang out with players. Front office guys hang out with front office guys. There was a divide in the building, and there still is, I believe, to this day. You're not going to hang out with a GM. Now, Roseman and Jason Kelsey hanging out, that's a different conversation. You're talking about a 10-plus year guy or a Brandon Graham. Those guys going to lunch with them, That's not uncommon because you spend so much equity in the building that no one's going to look any other way. But when you're a young player and you're hanging out with the head coach or you're hanging out with a general manager, that's not something you want to have the other players seeing. It's an uncool look. You know what I'm saying? It's an uncool look. You want to build your equity up. So like these 10-year, like Fletcher and those guys are the guys that can hang. Hey, don't forget Angelo Cataldi at the bottom of the hour. Crowley says Bronny should be playing at pickup courts. He really shouldn't be in the league. If we are being no, absolutely, Crowley. Absolutely, he should not be in the league. There was 1,300 better players than Bronny James. That's not the point. They placated to LeBron, and that's why the Lakers are in the position they're in. Isn't it funny? We talk about a team that sucks. That's one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. They've done nothing in a decade. Outside of the Disney Cup, they've done nothing. They've had 6 losing seasons in 10 years. And in the last 15 years, they've had the worst run since they left Minneapolis. I mean, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a Laker organization. It's like talking about the Lakers is like talking about the Cowboys, but at least the Cowboys hang around the rim. The Lakers don't even hang around the rim. LeBron James is not interesting. He's driven ratings through the floor. Think about that. He's not a ratings magnet. Steph Curry's more of one. There have been more fans exiting of watching NBA games during LeBron James's career than any other superstar player in NBA history. They've lost 47% of their audience. 47% of their audience in the last 15 years. You find that, I mean, you got the Boston Celtics that are for sale. Dude, AI was a ratings magnet. I watched every game I could with AI. Absolutely, he was one. Kobe too, man. Kobe too. Sills, did you hear that Bronny said he was holding back and not showing his true skills? Dude, it's a complete joke. And for people to say that, well, Caitlin Clark doesn't belong on the Olympic team. And then you look at that and go, that guy doesn't belong in professional basketball. And they gave him $7.9 million guaranteed, which means he's on the Laker roster. You understand? That's not a G League guy. He's on the roster. It's guaranteed fully. Hey, let me ask you something. What kind of privilege is that? What kind of privilege is that? What kind of privilege is that? What would you call that? Yeah, right. Imagine being a prospect with the Lakers. Chances of you making it are none. Big money privilege, LeBron privilege. Your dad owns the team. Hey, Jeannie Buss, you're no Dr. Jerry Buss. Daddy's privilege? Okay. Okay. Not black privilege. Clearly, that's not a thing. No, I don't think his skin color has anything to do with him being on the team. I think his being the son of LeBron has everything to do with it. I mean, 100%. Him being black. What, you don't think the Celtics? No, I don't think the Celtics would put Larry Bird's kid on the team. But I don't think skin color has anything to do with this. But it's a privilege of some sort. LeBron privilege? I'm not, hey, if you thought I was wanting you to land it on black privilege, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I want to make that clear. But it's some type of privilege. Okay? It's some type. Was Trotter Jr. the best pick at that position? No. Eagles picked him because he'd be a fan favorite. Okay? Yeah, Sue, it's a LeBron thing. It's totally a LeBron thing. When I repost the same message twice, I feel like the plane's flying flat. Message is over Wildwood Beach. I like it. Very good, Mark. Very good. All right. I gotta get this over here. I could not wait for this today. You know, I gotta be transparent with you guys. I said something on the radio 14 years ago, and I ended up getting fired for it. It was a complete mistake. Poor wording, locker room talk. I have to always own it. My company came out and with an apology, but the Bucks came in and parachuted in and said, he goes or we go. I was fired the next day. Now, Joe Bell, who ran 97.5, hired me 9 days later down at QAM in Miami. I know people have been fired for less. And I'm trying to figure this one out here before I bring Angelo in. So Odyssey, who, by the way, is trading at 10 cents. And when Angelo was there 3 years ago before the CBS guys, Odyssey was trading at about $45 a share. So their mismanagement of the company has WIP started Sports Talk. It wasn't FAN. It's IP. Guys like Angelo started this. So Odyssey said that with this Howard Eskin story, we have punished him. I was like, damn, Howard? Okay. Then I turned and looked around and went, okay, he's not been suspended? No. I'm trying to figure out where we are in this because I don't know. I'm confused. And the only person that can take the confusion away is Nostradamus. See this thing here? Right here? He's the only guy. Fresh from the Jersey Shore, our friend and former WIP morning show legend who worked at that company, Angelo Cataldi. I'll tell you something. What people are really talking about now, obviously, as we're getting ready for camp, we're 14 days out from the Eagle camp. But I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, what we're watching here with Howard Eskin. I just want to give you, not polluted or anything, Angelo, your take on how the company's handling it, how the Eagles are handling it, and really how WIP's handling it.
The whole city's talking about it. I'm deluged with emails every day right now. My website is getting crushed, angelocataldi.com, because I wrote a piece about it last week. And the only thing I have to correct you on, there's one entity that is not talking about it. It's WIP. They refuse to. I've got an email a day from somebody who tried this afternoon and was told we will, and rather impolitely, and was told, we are not talking about that. We will never talk about that. Click. And it's like, you know, when you leave a station after 33 years, so what I did, there's a lot of people are going to say, oh, I missed you so much. But the people taking over for me are doing the job that I did. They're offering their opinions on what's going on in Philadelphia sports. And that's great. That's fine. This is the first time in 16, 17 months that I've been retired that I've been truly frustrated because I feel like there's nobody there anymore to hold the bosses of Odyssey and WIP accountable. Because the way they have handled this is a disgrace. And I said it in the piece I wrote. It is disrespectful to the audience, and it's just flat out wrong. Now, I understand why it happened. I even understand how it happened. But essentially, what happened is a legend in our town, Howard Eskin, while in the actually the Diamond Club at Citizens Bank Park, an exclusive area behind home plate, attempted to kiss a woman. She did not accept this, was affronted enough by it that she filed a complaint. And this was in May, and nothing came out for the better part of a month and a half. And negotiations went on behind the scenes. And finally, Odyssey, the parent company of WIP, came out and said, Howard Eskin is banned from Citizens Bank Park. Now, the irony of that is they don't have authority over Citizens Bank Park. They have authority over their airwaves. And they said he will not be allowed. They got the Phillies and Aramark, which runs the concessions and all. They got them to agree that Howard would not go there for the rest of the Phillies season. And then the Sixers piled it on because they've hated Howard for years and years. They said he's not allowed at our place either. We don't want him at the Wells Fargo Center, and he's not coming to our training camp. And somehow in the statement they released, they acknowledged that something had happened that was inappropriate. But then they said that Howard was banned, but not from their airwaves. He wasn't on Saturday. He only has one show a week for 2 hours. He wasn't on Saturday. That was already planned. And he will apparently be back this Saturday. No suspension for sexual harassment. That's your bottom line. If you're looking for your bottom line, sexual harassment acknowledged by the company, but no suspension, no firing, no recourse. And here's the kicker, Dan. No comment from Howard Eskin for almost a week now. No comment, not on social media, nowhere. Nothing, no statement, nothing. Do you know Howard Eskin's been talking in our city publicly for 50 years? He hasn't shut up this long once. This is the longest nobody's heard from Howard. Howard doesn't take vacation. Howard's there all the time. And suddenly he went into hiding. So what, I mean, I know what they're doing now. They're gauging public reaction. And if the public reaction, if people are ready to go, okay, it was a minor thing, that's fine, then they'll just resume their lives and Howard will continue on, both in his show and more importantly, as a sideline reporter for the Eagles games on WIP. And then they did the dumbest thing. All that is wrong. They did you can't say that he's being banned from the ballpark, but he didn't do anything so bad that we're going to do anything on the station. You can't do that. It's one or the other. You run your station, don't you? You can't do it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, then this is it. Edict across the board. Nobody at WIP will be allowed to discuss this issue on the air. If it comes up, we don't want it to. We're screening callers to make sure it doesn't. If it comes up, you read the boilerplate statement that was made, which acknowledged he did something wrong and that they take really seriously. Danny, I've dealt with this my whole life there. But there are always going to be lawyers who are going to want you to shut up. Don't talk about that. Lawyers, when you get arrested, don't talk. They have the same reaction when anything happens within a station. And you got to tell the lawyers to stay on their side of the road because you're the one who knows what should and shouldn't be talked about. And when you have a scandal, if you have a scandal and you don't talk about it, it's in-house. You don't talk about it, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You want two sets of rules. The next time a player has a scandal, let's say one of these players gets a sexual harassment charge, think WIP will talk about it? It'll be around. I know, I did it for 33 years. It was at the top of my list every day when there was a scandal. And now they're going to say, yeah, but if it involves us, no scandal there. We're not going to do that. We can control that. Well, they couldn't control me for 33 years, all the way back to when Howard Eskin had his previous scandal with a woman. And I think he was kind of an innocent victim there. He sent somebody flowers who was having a hard time, and her husband got jealous and killed her. It was a murder. It was 1997.
Wow.
And I talked about it. on my show for days and weeks whenever anybody called.
Wow.
And we didn't, we'd go crazy about Howard. He was trying to, it was a gesture, yeah. But we talked about it because to me, there was almost never a time, Dan, where something was out of bounds. And when the lawyers start to make decisions that disrespect the audience, somebody's got to be there to stop them. And nobody was there to stop them. And I tell you this right now, and they know it's true. If I was still working at WIP and they said that to me, I would say, fire me. And I go on the next day and I talk about it.
That was going to be my next question. How would you handle this? And I think what you laid out there was this. You cripple a host and his audience when you don't address the things that are going on in your community and you skate around it. You lose audience with that because then they don't think that you're genuine with them. It's not about sounding the best. It's not about being the best. It's about being the most genuine with your audience that you possibly can do to connect. And when you're escaping, there's good and bad in everything. So you have to address it. And to your point, so the next time there's an Eagles scandal or there's something that maybe Howie didn't want to answer, you're going to criticize them for not answering something when you can't answer your own in-house garbage that you have. How do people look at that? Angelo, is that just the new wave of where we are today because more teams have control over the narrative?
That's where it gets interesting. First of all,
but wait, Angelo, how much do you think the Eagles are pressuring Odyssey as well?
There's two lines of defense. The first one is the lawyers. They're always going to want to stop you. If you get past them, now you get to the business entanglements. You're the flagship station of the Eagles, and Howard Eskin has been their mouthpiece for a generation, maybe longer. And he has, every time there has been a problem with the Eagles, he has taken up their side at the expense of whoever else was in the way. He was their mouthpiece. So the question you ask yourself now, the Phillies are out. The Sixers are out. The Flyers, I actually talked to the president because I used to work with Keith Jones. And they didn't take any stand on it because Howard never goes there. Howard doesn't do hockey. So it would have been dumb for them to say anything. So they didn't even get to the point where they were considering what to do because there was nothing they needed to do. But now you got the Eagles. And the Eagles are on the record saying, this is really bizarre. They are monitoring the situation.
What does that mean?
The situation happened in May.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, it means they're waiting to see how big the backlash is against Howard for this story. And the thing about it is, if they didn't like him, Howard would not only no longer be their sideline reporter, he would no longer work at WIP. They can save him if they would like, or they can get rid of him. They have the power of this situation.
Who's monitoring this? Who's the person that is the monitor of this when it comes to this? Is it the owner? Is it Howie? Is it Bob Lang?
See, the owner, it's probably Bob Lang on a day-to-day basis, the PR guy. But Jeff Lurie, whether you like him or don't like him, there's one thing about his public profile. He is extremely strong on women's issues. He is truly a woman's liber. He is a activist for women. And this is putting him in an unbelievably bad situation because on the one hand, they've got their lapdog. They've got a guy who's always protected. He whenever he can, he discourages negative comments about the team. They could have the collapse they had last year, and Howard is still telling you how great the organization is. That's important to them. That they see that's valuable. The guy's been doing it more longer than anybody. But this is an issue where if women activists got involved, they would feel a heat where they might have to cut them loose. See, This isn't any longer about whatever it is he did or didn't do with that woman.
You think this is still evolving then?
Well, it's evolving. There's a rumor that would end the whole thing. It's just a rumor. I don't have this confirmed, but I can say it on a talk show because that's what talk shows do.
Right.
It was done, this incident, whatever it was, and I am not here to judge that because I have no idea what happened. But the incident happened in the Diamond Club. And the Diamond Club has surveillance cameras everywhere. It's probably on tape. And we all know, we've covered a bunch of stories like this. If a tape comes out and you see it, it's usually the end of the road for the guy who did something.
Look at what happened with Diddy. You know, he did something like 16 years ago or 9 years ago. The video came out, or just like what we saw with Kareem Hunt, or we even saw with Ray Rice. You know, you heard it, but when you saw it, it changed the narrative of the entire story.
Now, hold up. You're right about all those cases, but those were physical abuse.
Absolutely.
This
I don't mean to
unwanted.
Right.
You know, it's nowhere near at that level.
Right. Right.
And you know, where's Howard? Where's Howard? His son, good guy, Spike Eskin, was in an awful position because he's on the air at WIP. And after it had happened, he had to come on and say something. I thought he handled it pretty well. I thought he handled it as well as you could. But, you know, I would come forward just so that the burden wouldn't be totally on my son. I would say something. I know. Are you going to say that it's a trumped up charge? Maybe it is. I don't know. Where are you on this? If you apologize, you open the floodgates to the women's activists and the sexual harassment thing and that whole thing. If you deny it, you better hope a tape doesn't come out. It's a really bizarre situation.
Do you think the Eagles right now are being proactive in suppressing
I think
what's going on because they want him and they realize on what a great mouthpiece he is and megaphone for that organization? And that's why Odyssey's taken a second seat in this case here. Because this looks to me like this is a case of public opinion and how this thing's going to play itself out. Because if you're telling all the hosts, and I've never heard that, on a radio station that you and Howard and many people, I mean, I'm telling you, Angelo, I can't believe WIP is in the shape that it's in, where you can't express an opinion. This is what we do for a living.
Yes.
I'm not a cheerleader for you. I am a talk show host.
Right.
This is why there's no talk show hosts in the country any longer. It's because you have to be a salesperson. It's really sad to see the state that WIP's in now.
It is to me in this case, because it wouldn't have happened if I were there. It wouldn't have happened in my 4 hours, and they probably wouldn't have fired me because I did it before. I've done it other times when they said we don't talk about this. I was told in a show after the first segment not to talk about Mike Tyson biting off the ear of Evander Holyfield when the whole world was talking about it. And I literally said to my program director, it's in my book. I told him, bleep you, slammed the phone down and did the next 3 hours and 50 minutes on nothing but that. And I didn't do it to avenge him. I did it because it's what people would talk about.
Right.
Your job as a talk show host is to talk about what people are talking about. Now, the one thing you just said, though, that's interesting is you said, all right, they're waiting to gauge public opinion. All right. Normally where you would gauge it was WIP. But
and the Inquirer, I think, is in on it.
I don't know what the Inquirer's doing.
Because I looked around.
No, Marcus Hayes he's the one guy. He came out and said, this isn't finished. You got work to do here. You haven't dealt with, WIP hasn't dealt with Howard. No, there are people there that are holding people accountable, but nowhere near what would have happened 15, 20, 30 years ago. It's not done anymore. And that's your problem, Dan. They're trying
if you were on the air, you would have opened your show on today. You would have opened your show with this.
the day after I would have come on and I said, listen, it's no secret that there is a very uncomfortable situation for this radio station. Here is what is being reported. I would then tell her it was reported. Then I would read the statement made by my company, Odyssey. And then I would say what I said in the blog, which is all I could tell you is I am not in a position to pass judgment on what did or didn't happen. But I can tell you, that since the company is on the record having said something did happen that was inappropriate, the company needs to do something, and not banning them from a stadium they don't control. They need to do something on the airwaves, suspension, long suspension, firing, whatever. They need to do something.
Do you think he should be on the air, Angelo?
The second part is, and this would be the key part, I would say, as uncomfortable as this is, if you want to talk about it, we're here to do it. But understand, we are not going to pass judgment on whether he did this or didn't. We're just going to talk about the ramifications.
You would have people call in and give their opinion.
I would give them, and I would end that segment with the phone number. And I would give them the number and say, you can call. This is exactly what WIP does not want. And maybe it's because that would, enhance the voice of the people while they're trying to gauge what the public reaction is. But you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to let them talk about that, because they're going to talk about a lot of other stuff. And you can't start making rules on who gets talked about and who doesn't. When you do that, you are basically saying, we are going to suppress your ability to speak if we don't like what you're saying. No, it's called talk radio. You gotta talk.
So in your opinion, you believe that they're shutting down the phone lines and everything else to try to suppress the avalanche of backlash that is, they're trying to outrun this thing here.
I don't know
what you're saying.
I can't give you a reason why they shut it down, but I can tell you without any hesitation, because I've heard it from a number of people who know that they have shut it down. They will not discuss it.
You think he should be on the air?
Not right now, no. I think he should issue an apology. I think the company, based on what he did, should issue a suspension of however long they think the infraction is worth, and they should not hide behind a ban of a ballpark whose turnstiles they have no control over. That is a bogus way to deal with the situation. You have airwaves, you have legendary broadcaster there. He has done something you acknowledge is wrong, and you have not punished him yourself. You have done nothing. And guys get sexual harassment now is, you're close to on the line of never working again. With
Absolutely.
In this world, Me Too generation, but they're trying to finesse it, and they may succeed. If you had to ask me right now, is this going to work? I would say it might. It might work.
Wow. So you think if he addresses it this weekend and it's done in a right way, would he addresses it? Do you think that'll be enough for the Eagles?
The Eagles are already fine. Right? The Eagles just don't want this to become a bigger thing. Right?
I can't believe the Philadelphia Eagles are okay with this.
He's got to say something. If he acknowledges that he was wrong, he opens himself up to other problems. All right. If he just gives kind of a blanket apology that doesn't really apologize, if I offended her, I didn't mean to, that kind of wording. Yep. I don't think that works. I think you got to fall on the sword, and if you did it, and then there's the issue of whether there's a tape, and if the tape comes out, that it solves all.
There's no way there's not a tape, because, like you said, right, because they would have took his word over anybody else's word, even an employee. But
You're
because there was a tape in the building,
You're right.
That's why they came up with this bogus ass punishment thing, but no suspension.
You're right, Dan. You're 100% right. because it's he said, she said.
Yeah.
And he could say, well, I don't even know what she's talking about. I don't know anything about this. And they go, well, was there a witness? Maybe not. Then there's something more there that they would like not to come out, because then then it's over. Then it's a cause celeb, and then they have to do something.
I have 2 football questions for you, if you don't mind. Okay.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
I want to roll into this. I started thinking, because I heard people talking and questioning this offseason about Jalen Hurts' leadership. And I want to give a little history lesson, and you're the perfect guy to help me with this, because I went back and and by the way, whether you like this quarterback or not, it's funny how the media or the organization, how they treat all these quarterbacks. So I went back. McNabb had his leadership questioned by the organization and by the media. Carson Wentz had his leadership questioned by the media. Hell, people forget Nick Foles, Act 1, sent his ass to St. Louis for Sam Bradford. Question whether or not that was the right guy in leadership. We come back, obviously, as the greatest substitute teacher of all time and win the Super Bowl. And now here we are with Hurts again, has a dip year, and they question leadership. Is it me, Angelo? But has every quarterback since 2000 have a leadership problem? And is it every guy in the building? Or is this maybe an organizational thing that they like to look at and go, well, hey, okay, McNabb had leadership issues, questioned it. That Wentz, Vic, Michael Vick even, Nick Foles, Act 1, now Hurts. It's funny. How come every one of these guys, am I wrong when I say that?
No.
Every one of these guys have been
You
questioning
go back
their leadership.
further. Dan, you can go back to Randall Cunningham.
Randall Cunningham, too, right.
Well, here's the thing. I've always said this. I still believe it. One of the absolute worst jobs in professional sports is quarterback of the Eagles, because you're under a microscope, right? And everyone is going to question everything. But I'm just going to say what I said before. If that's what they really think is a big deal, then they ain't reading the tea leaves right. Because the big deal is the fact that the defense couldn't cover the pass, that they had 2 guys as coordinators who didn't know what the hell they were doing, that they got a head coach now who apparently has been lost all power, but remains there for no apparent reason. You understand? They've got so many other issues. They've lost Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick. They've lost some of the best leaders in the clubhouse, and they're worried about the leadership of this poor young man who got destroyed last year because they couldn't pick up the blitz. Destroyed. Damn. He's not your problem. No. If he is, he's way low down the list. But you're right that it usually comes up as soon as a quarterback stumbles. Just a little stumble. And I go, oh, the other guy came in and they looked like they wanted to play more for him. That was one of the things when Wentz was here. They seem like they're playing much better for Foles. They seem like they like playing for Foles more than for Wentz, which may or may not be true. All I can tell you is it comes up all the time. It has never been less relevant than it is with this young man. He's a leader. He's a winner. Give him a chance. Stop making him the villain when there are 10 other people who deserve way more of the blame than he does.
How about this one? Who's more important to the front office, Nick or Jalen? And I say that with this. They're molding this guy to be the ultimate yes man for the owner and for the general manager. I mean, anybody who watched this, Angelo, if I put his resume down, I would go like this. Well, hell, that's pretty good. But if I gave you the eyeball test and looked at it, and I'd go like this. Have you watched that guy coach? He can't coach. He's not qualified. It does his visual on the sidelines doesn't match his resume. You would never hire him if you didn't look at the resume by his sideline antics and how he conducts himself. So to me, though, like you just said, he's there for a reason. Who's more important, do you think? Say they have a good year this year, not a great year. Hurts has a decent year. Who will they move on from? Hurts or Nick?
They will move on from Nick. All right. But, this is the thing about you, Dan. That's why I love coming on your show. Sometimes you're such a genius, you don't even realize it. All right. Do you understand? You just outlined the same story as Howard Eskin. The Philadelphia Eagles place a great value on yes men, on people who do their bidding, people who are publicly saying all nice things about them. Sirianni is there now with one basic responsibility, to handle the news conferences. And they all know he will kiss their ass at every opportunity, which is exactly the same thing that Howard Eskin has done for 20 years. They will value that to the extent that they will risk the public wrath for sexual harassment. And they will risk the public wrath that you brought back a coach that presided over the worst collapse in the team's history. They value yes men. They love to be told they're right, even when they're not.
Well, they got the ultimate HR hold-em-in, Bob Lang, in the building there running PR in the building. I mean, hey, don't believe what you're hearing. Believe me.
Yeah.
I
Wait
mean it.
For my next statement. My next big statement will tell all that there needs to be told.
Oh, I can't tell people where they can read that fabulous blog of yours. And by the way, the book too, folks, don't forget. Also, it's on audio too. So make sure you can go to Amazon and you can find it there as well. Angelo's kind. If he likes you, he'll sign it. So here you go right here. Angelo, tell the folks how they can find your fabulous blog.
Yeah, it's AngeloCataldi.com, and I'm doing a blog thing at least once a week, and I'm talking about whatever you're talking about. And unlike WIP, I really don't have any boundaries. I will talk about whatever it is, because there shouldn't be. It's a free country, and it's free speech.
And I love the fact that they're quoting you now in the Inquirer. I'm like, you know what, man? Hey, you know what, Angelo? When I see you, I'm like, you know that scene from Godfather 3?
Right.
When I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
When my wife saw it, she said to me, Dan, wow, your bosses are not going to like you. And I said, this just in, they never did.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much, Angelo. Folks, please, again, get the book. The book is absolutely fabulous. Talks about his connection with his audience, what he was talking about today more so than anything. I don't even think he has a problem with a lot of the things. He has a problem with transparency, not being there on WIP, because that's what made that station the #1 sports talk station in America, and it started with Angelo in the morning. Angelo, have a great day, my friend. Thank you so much for finding time for me.
Anytime.
Thank you. Our good friend Angelo Cataldi. Please hit the like button. Lori's controlling the situation, Barb? You think? Please hit the like button. So the Eagles are in a wait and see. Wow. Or my boss is going to get a massive call today. I wouldn't be shocked if they are now. You're more mad that we talked about it than the actual crime, allegedly. We'll reset. Where are we in the like list right now, Xander? Just don't get whacked. Where are we in the like list right now? We're trying to get to 200, my friends. Where are we? Help us out here, man, where we're in the like list. 123. Let's try to get to 200. All right, my friends. Let's try to hit that thing here. We got 1 hour to go here. Let's see if we can get that. Okay? PR will be calling, right, Jace? We'll reset. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Ben Sells, final hour, power hour. Please hit the like button here on this Football Monday. We're going to start going here now because we're 14 days out to the start of training camp. Just a little bit more here to close up what Angelo Cataldi was talking about with Howard Eskin. See, that's why shows like this, we're dinosaurs. You think I have any personal vendetta against Howard? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nothing. He's been on this program before. Until Odyssey told him to stop coming on. Imagine that. That just shows you again. They told host to stop coming on this program. The Eagles told other host to stop coming on this program. The Eagles told Odyssey not to keep the story going on WIP because they want to keep Howard as their sideline guy. That's not journalism. And by the way, I'm not hiding behind journalism. I'm just telling you that's not journalism. There is no such thing as it any longer. And companies like the Eagles have destroyed journalism. White House, Congress, our government have destroyed it. The people haven't. Journalism is dead because of control. Okay? Journalism has been destroyed because the people around journalism, you can't do your job. You got hosts on that network, WIP, who want to probably talk about it with their audience. But that creates an avalanche. Trust me when I tell you. When I said the monkey comment 13 years ago, iHeart didn't protect me. They allowed it to continue to facilitate, and it was the end. Now, I was lucky enough to get a job 9 days later, but that's how the avalanche works. I was supposed to get the job at WEEI in Boston. The avalanche picked up because of the thing I did 13 years ago. I didn't get the job in Boston. And that was Odyssey. So you have a company, and the Eagles are doing this. They're protecting him. JM goes, it depends on who likes you. Yes. Got to remember something. Okay? Sports talk to me, Yale, is people talk. What you talk about at the bar. Oh, Barb, I was offered a 3-year contract to be the morning show host after Kirk and Callahan. I had gone up there and I was doing shows every single night, every weekend, and I was doing it from San Diego. Don't you think they have a line of guys around that station wanting to get on the air? And that's why WEEI sucks right now. They don't have any compelling talent. People don't want compelling talent in their companies anymore. There's no compelling shows. By the way, WIP, the thing that makes that station so wonderful are you. Do you not get it? Remember, you guys keep asking me, hey, Sills, are you a fan of the Eagles? I'm more of a fan of the fans of the Eagles. Because anybody that can keep a station alive like that for 5 decades and the amount of fan base that keeps that station going the way it goes is a testament to the community, not the host. Those hosts on that network, honestly, are not very good. They're not very good. The 97.5 thing is completely unlistenable. It's just not listenable. You want to hear something crazy? The amount of audience that we have, that we attract to my show, the average listener, watcher, is 55 minutes. An hour you spend with me and an average. You know what the average audience listens to a radio host? 2 minutes. Xander's the one that has that number. You know, it's funny. I get called a liar that my numbers aren't 55 minutes. People watch me for an average of an hour every day. I mean, Ike isn't very good. I think Ike's okay. I think Ike's okay. I think the fact that he's an Eagle guy, it's not compelling radio, though. There's nothing compelling about those shows. Okay? Thank you very much, James. I appreciate that. Hey, James, that what was that team thing that you have in DC? That used to be great when Kornheiser was on it. Hey, Senor, thank you, man. That is so awesome. Look at Senor. He's here for the full 4 hours for us. It's wonderful. Seals, would you bring in Hopkins as wide receiver 3? You're obviously talking about DeAndre Hopkins. Damn right I would, depending on what the price tag would be. Steve goes like this. Dan nails it on audience interactions. Steve, you know where I learned that from? Being a stockbroker for Bear Stearns. Talking to people every day and learning how to have a conversation with them. It's a good show every day here. I'd rather watch you and your takes than First Take or national syndicated shows. And Forrest, I don't always agree. And that's a great take, and I appreciate it. I really do. Looks like we're all refreshed and ready to rock as we are on the runway now for the start of the season. Okay, right? If Cooper DeJean slipping partially because he is white, could this be a league sports realization of black cornerbacks are the standard, correcting the racial imbalance of the position for sports and athletes? Well, Jalen, do you think one of the reasons that there's a lot of animosity towards Caitlin Clark is because she's white? Or Christian McCaffrey didn't get the Heisman Trophy because he was white. He played at Stanford. It's perception. But you know what happens, Jalen, after a while? Talent supersedes it. Larry Bird, he wasn't just a good white guy. He was a great basketball player. It's kind of the reverse in black quarterbacks. Nobody looks at black quarterbacks anymore and thinks that's a thing. They're the highest paid players in the sport now. And they have absolutely blown that myth up that people had for generations in our sport and in our league. Your race has nothing to do with playing the position. Your intelligence, your ability, your coachability, all of that has no color to it. Opportunities have a color to it. Okay? Opportunities. That's where I agree. Okay? Not going to lie, sometimes I'm here to see what the chat says. Gino, great. And you know what, Gino? That's because what I just said about the Philly audience and the sports audience and the people we have. You know why? Dude, you guys run that city. It's the best fan base I've ever spoken to. I've never seen a fan base generate the interest level. Hey, I sprinkle in other NFL teams. People in that city hate it, but I do. But everything is centric on the Eagles. I've never seen anything like it. It'd probably be that way if I was talking Bills, 49ers. 49ers, it was that way as well. You'd be shocked. 49ers have a great fan base. Okay? Have a great fan base. You rock, bro. Keep it real, even if wrong. Best heavyweight boxers in the world for 20 years have mostly been white guys, and their numbers have been crap. It's not always race. I couldn't name you one boxer that's the heavyweight champion in the last 20 years. The black boxers and heavyweight champions all were wonderful personalities. Ali, Foreman, Frazier, Ken Lyles, Ken Norton, Ernie Shavers. All those guys were phenomenal personalities. All of them. I couldn't name you a white guy right now that's been the heavyweight champion. No idea. Heavyweight division? I don't know it. Thanks, Angelo, Sills, and Xander. Need more honesty. I told you, Sean, that's why they tried shutting the place down. They tried shutting it down because honesty in places that talk like we talk, they can't have those places anymore. They try to control it. They called me an anti-Semite, the Eagles. Tried scaring me. Because I was critical of their GM. I'm not personal with these guys. I have fun. I mean, I'm not personal. Strictly business, man. Strictly business. JM goes based on what? Because, JM, I'll tell you. I got called being anti-Semite because I called Howie a glorified CPA. My bosses and me were like, what? How'd you plug that in? That's why when you read things on the internet about me, you got a guy that works at WIP right now that'll be on the air this weekend. Sexually harassed, allegedly, a woman at a baseball facility. The company is okaying to go on their airwaves. And you attack me for having an opinion on your GM. Interesting. The Eagles are more mad at me for my opinion about Howie Roseman being a glorified CPA and someone sexually harassing, allegedly, a woman in a VIP section of a baseball facility in game. And the Eagles keep the guy as a sideline guy. All you need to know. You lost complete credibility, Bob. You have no credibility. How could you have credibility when you accuse me of being an anti-Semite and you allow sexual harassment to patrol your sidelines? Would you think this was going to be easy today, Bob? Oh, do I have an ass with Odyssey? Yes. Do you think this was going to be easy? Cringy? I wasn't going to get it off my chest? I can't wait. It's going to pick up by Saturday, too. They're mad at me for a comment about a GM. And they enable a guy who's being accused of sexual harassment. CPA is a Jewish stereotype. My aunt's a CPA. She's Italian. Wow. People tie anything into anything. So I guess all mafia guys are mob guys. Unlike Justice Scalia, right? Thank you, Tony. Who in the world would tie that in? But a person looking for an angle. Good grief. And I'm not saying you, Yale. I'm not picking on you. Doctors and lawyers? I mean, I didn't know that was the cornering of the market, being Jewish. I didn't realize that. I've never heard that, but okay. No. Yeah, I'm not completely understand. All good, man. I'm a CPA. I'm Italian. I find the comments hilarious. And I think Yale does too. Sue, Sue, Yale, that's what Angelo was talking about. What you guys are doing right now. That's conversing. That's conversation. Yeah, that's funny. James, that's the whole. Do you know our show changed it around completely when Xander said, Sills, let's get everybody involved. Talk to the people. It's true. Howard bangs on so many players for what he is accused of. He can't say anything in the future. Sean, let me defend Howard. I called 3 African-American players monkeys. Should I be not allowed to talk about any kind of conversation with race because I said something that cost me a job? And I appreciate the super chat. And see, for me, Sean, how I look at it is coming from a place of experience. Hey, man, I said something that was way off the line. I didn't realize what I said. It was a mistake. But you got to pay the consequences for some of the things in our actions in life. And I always own it. And of course, I didn't mean it. But it's not the point. Consequences are consequences. And so for me, it comes from a place of experience. And I've gone through that. I've seen what cancel culture, and I agree with Xander, cancel culture does to you. But the thing that I love with sports talk and having a sports show is talking about it. I'm not right. I'm not wrong. I have an opinion that is in better than me. Seals, you do? Of course I do. It was a colossal mistake. I didn't realize what I said. I call my daughter monkey all the time. I stopped doing that. My wife told me to stop, and I did. There's no history of me acting like that. If anything, I'm for fair and balance. I've been talking about the inequities of African-American coaches in college football. It's the reason I got into sports talk. You can't have 160 jobs and only 5 black coaches in significant jobs. Yeah, I'm with you. But see, Yale says let it go. Yale, uncomfortable conversations are the best. You admit to mistakes. I don't think he will. Well, hey, Sean, thank you for the super chat. I do think this, though. I would give him the benefit of hoping that he will this weekend. I think you have to give him an opportunity, or you're just going to cancel, not you, or people are just going to cancel him. I'm not for that. I think everybody deserves an opportunity to rectify mistakes. Here, let me give you a great one. Michael Vick. I love Michael Vick. I'm an animal guy. Certain people, like my daughter, can't forgive him because of the stuff he did with the dogs. And I get it, and I understand it. I totally do. But he's trying to right his life. Okay? How about Ray Rice punching his girlfriend in the face? We all witnessed that. I love Ray Rice. He and his wife now, same woman. I've been married 20 plus years. I have a wonderful family. He works inside the Ravens organization, and he goes on symposiums, talks about making one tragic mistake that could end your legacy or things in your life. Suplex. He goes around going, don't be that guy. They got a wonderful family. There were many times that Steve Bugatti, the owner of the Ravens, would petition trying to get him back in the league. And he would tell him, no, I need to work on being a man. Now, I don't know about you. You're never going to forget that videotape. But what I think he's doing now is doing more good for kids and people in the league and young professional football players who know the story of Ray Rice. Ray's a great family man now. Okay? He's a great family man. And he wants to do what's best in his life for his family. Isn't that rising from the ashes? Barb, you hate the Ravens organization because they're successful. That's a football take. Hey, Barb, that's a football take. Yeah. Vic has done more to help dogs since his incarceration, both monetarily and time commitments, than any other human alive. JM, absolutely. That's also part of the story. Right? Hundreds of rich white people killed greyhounds, and nothing but Vic. They made an example out of him because he was black. You know, it's funny. Suplex. You'll love this. Okay? You'll love this. Suplex has this here. Suplex, you're going to like this. Then I'll move on, reset. So I used to have a show, 25, 28 years, sports talk. I had a segment on it called The Pet Connection. Suplex, you know why? Because when I lived in Tampa at the dog tracks, I found out they were throwing the greyhounds and shooting the greyhounds in the head and then throwing them in pits and burying them. And when I found that out, I was infuriated. So I had a segment on my program every Friday called The Pet Connection. Petco ended up sponsoring it. I don't know how many Greyhound dogs. When I moved it to California, the California racetracks. I don't know how many Greyhounds I got adopted. I got great pictures of me and Greyhounds, turtles, cockadoos. We opened it up to all animals. I'm a huge animal person. I had a thing called, really, on my program, I had a benchmark called the Pet Connection. And I used to get hospice animals adopted. Okay. All of that because of those Greyhounds. Sills, it's disgusting what happened to them, Sills. My aunt in California got one from you. Man, that's so great to hear. That's so great. Your aunt in California got a Greyhound from us. There you go, Jack. Dogs are my cure for depression. Alejandro, I didn't know that side of yours. That's awesome. I can't tell you how many animals I must have in 25 years having that segment. Thousands of animals that I got adopted. I would raise money, get food, thousands of pounds of food for the animals and their shelters. Yeah. I was in Belize one time and founder of Petco Yacht was in the marina. Yeah, Petco was always great. They gave us cards and we used to give them out with every dog that was adopted. And then, of course, Petco Park, we would have the Pet Connection out there on Fridays with the Padres. The Padres used to have me out there, and we used to do that. You brought attention to it when no one wanted to. Suplex, thank you. Bless you, Sills. Love you, man. I'm a huge animal guy. I appreciate you even more, Big Sills. Bless you, bro. Cosmo. Oh, I'm an animal guy. Dogs and cats. My aunt hates the bills that we have. She's like, God dang it. All rescue animals. All right. I want to do something. I did some of it with Xander, and I'm going to do it again. No, by the way, let's do this. Let's see how the story plays out with where the Eagles are. By the way, you got to remember something. ESP, the guy who ruined Deshaun Jackson's Eagle career, Howard Eskin is going to be treated just like he was. The Eagles took a shine to him, and the Eagles like Howard. Those two guys are their guys. Unless they do something crazy. By the way, you know that the only reason this came public is because there is a tape. Why isn't anybody from the Inquirer demanding that they release the tape to either exonerate or to validate what happened? You could easily end this. It's a corporate suite. Shit, I got a camera in my driveway. Validate or vindicate? Why won't they do it? All right. Let's do something here. I got 10 of these. I didn't go over all of them with Xander here. We're 14 days out from the start of training camp. Jack says, Sills, you've lived a life, man. Still fighting it daily, dude. Still fighting it daily. They had to be a damn tape for the Phillies and Sixers to ban him. Absolutely. Why isn't it public? You can make this whole story go away by just airing it. You don't think the Eagles have seen it? Sills, Mekhi Becton is going to ball out. He's part of my conversation, especially the Phillies. Howard used to ask female callers on his show if the wash is done, what's for dinner. He's always played hard. He did not do that. He did not do that. Is the wash done? What's for dinner? He's always... he did not do that, Barb. No way did he talk like that on the air. No, I wouldn't do that. No way. Hey. No, he did not. He certainly did. Oh, my. So wait a minute. He's on the air going, so you have a take. So Barb has a take. Hey, what do you make of what the Eagles are going to do for the backup tight end, this year? Is there enough depth there? Hey, sweetheart, what's for dinner? Wait a minute. Wait, Barb. So he's like this. Hey, did you get my underwear and my socks done? I like them folded. First drawer. What's for dinner? Oh, my God. Oh, man. Barb, I only did that one time because of that Gator chick, Erin Andrews. And I got hammered for it pretty big. But she was picking on me because of her dad. I told her, I go, hey, Barb, I did say this to her. Howard liked it too. You can Google it. He started laughing. And he wrote something because I went like this to Andrews. Because she got Derek Jeter wrong. She called him like Bob Jeter or something. And I said, come on, Aaron. Everyone knows. You have no idea who Derek Jeter is. And she goes, yes, I do. I go, who are you kidding? Who are you kidding? Hey, Barb, you might get mad at me, but I told her, please do me a favor and pop out of a cake. That's why I got suspended, because I told her to pop out of a cake. 149 likes. Please hit the like button. But she was a Gator, Barb. She kept prodding me. Hey, you're just obnoxious. I go, hey, Aaron, let's be honest. You look better popping out of a cake. Oh, wait. Hey, thank you, Suplex. Okay, all right. Maybe I did say a little more too. Okay. Yeah. I think I may. Hey, Barb, I think I may have even mentioned something about a ham sandwich. But Barb, she and her dad used to call my program because they were Gator guys aggravating me about my canes. Okay? They used to aggravate me. Your canes, all those arrests, all you low lives down there, we're the Gators. And I'm like, now look back, you got Aaron Hernandez. In a way, better cook than my wife. Talk about classic backfire. Okay. Not a very positive offseason for the Eagles. End of the last season, and it's been continuing. Hey, W. Farrell, that's been my conversation. Okay? Aaron's time in the spotlight is almost over, really. Okay. Hey, Barb, I'll say it to you. She's been one of the worst sideline reporters in the history of football. Okay? She's been one of the worst. The person she replaced was great. She was great at it. There's a lot of great women reporters and sideline reporters that do a fabulous job. She ain't one of them. Okay? The woman she took the job from was really outstanding. Pam Oliver. Pam Oliver is fabulous. Fabulous. And the players love her. Okay? All right, that's enough of this. Let's move on here. Please hit the like button. Trying to get to 200 here. All right. Big Sil's random Eagle thoughts as we're rolling. Yeah, you know what, JM? You know, Aaron Andrews, the rest of them, even the guys. I don't care. Okay, you know, I don't care. Sideline reporters, great. Hey, it's cold out. Really. Hey, I've been talking to, and how many times though? I was talking to Coach the other. No, you weren't. You made that up. You think a coach is going to come over to a sideline reporter and tell you how the team's feeling prior to going up and playing against the Giants? Yeah, I'm sure Nick Sirianni walked right up to you and went, "Hey, we feel pretty good. We had a good night's sleep. We stayed in the Holiday Inn Express. Things worked out great. Can't wait to see what we do here in the Meadowlands." Right? 45 away. Let's go, folks. We may get there to 200 likes. All right. My Big Sil's takeaways and random thoughts for camp. I brought some of these up with Xander. I want to reset these here. Hurts, Kellen Moore, and Doug Nussmeier. Are they going to get on the same page with Jalen? And how fast? I think this has got a lot to do with the organization. Are you going to use preseason football? Are you going to go through a full camp? Right? I mean, are you really going to take this offseason and be serious about it? Who's the quarterback coach? Doug Nussmeier. Are you really going to take this serious? What is Barkley going to look like? Will it be a work in progress? Will it be a work in progress? I don't know what this guy's role is still to this day, and it's July 8th. And you're 14, 15 days out from the start of training camp. And I still have no idea how they're going to utilize him. What is wide receiver? This is number 3. What is wide receiver 3 going to look like? Or is it going to be another vacant year at that position? I brought this up with Xander earlier. Hey, if you don't feel you have a number 3 guy, use one of your 1s and 2 in the 3 hole in the slot. Putting a less than talented guy in a position where you can have an advantage versus lesser talented guys on their defenses. This is about finding the mismatch. Maybe AJ lines up more in a slot one game. Maybe you use him a little bit more like Debo. I'm not talking jet sweeps. Put him on the numbers. Put him in the slot. Go back and forth. If Jalen's struggling with reading defenses, move the guys around. Makes sense, doesn't it? Better chance of getting open. Tight end position is a key in today's NFL. You think you got enough depth there? You did in the last 2 years. Just my random thoughts I want to have answered by the end of camp. The Kelsey replace might be not as easy as you think. This is going to be something to keep an eyeball on. Okay? Seals, I'm not going to lie. Eagles need another pass rusher. I think so too. Give Covey a shot. He might be a Beasley type wide receiver 3. He needs numbers and impact. Injury is our biggest opponent. Okay, JM, not bad. Yeah. I think this Kelsey replacing just with talent alone, okay, I think this is going to be a big one. Let's just say this. What if you lose a tush push out of the gate? And it was him. Hey, when Wentz was in the room, 26-28 succession rate you had with Wentz doing the tush push. What was the one common denominator? Jason Kelsey. Jason says Cam Jurgens will be fine. I'm not saying he's not going to be fine. Fine versus all pro is a big difference. Danny, do you think the starters, including Hurts, should play a bit in the preseason? I do. Series or two. Nothing crazy. Yeah. I think they should see game speed. There's nothing better than having quality reps. Controlled scrimmages, in my opinion, are not good enough. Guys, please hit the like button. We're trying to get to 200. How will Stoutland use Micaiah Becton? Swing guard and tackle? Is that where he's going to be? Swing guard and tackle? Kimberly, as a personal trainer for 25 years and football fanatic, what are your tops for women getting into broadcasting? Your tips for getting into broadcasting? Perseverance, Kimberly. Perseverance. Keep at it. Every time someone says you suck, you're not good, don't listen to them. Opinions are like assholes. Most of the people that are making an opinion about your ability have no idea what they're talking about. Only you know what sounds good. And you get better and better and better the more you do it. Most of the program directors in today's broadcasting, they're terrible evaluators of talent. Look at the radio shows. Where are the superstar on-air guys any longer? Where are the 14, 15 share, 17 share guys? Okay? You don't have to be the most talented person, Kimberly. You have to be a person that perseveres. Just outwork them. People are afraid of work. I like Micaiah Becton. I think Micaiah Becton is going to be a superstar. Okay? I do. Hey, you want to hear something, Kimberly? It's one of the reasons I barely take days off here. I never take days off, even when they're given to me. I just took a vacation off. Xander knows. Xander could probably count. I've probably taken a total of in 4 years. A week off, 10 days, maybe more, 14 in 4 years. Sounds right, no, Xander? About 14 days, maybe? In 4 years? I don't take days off. I don't take shows off. Depth in the old line, I think we're going to be cool. I do. How much different is Barkley going to look than what DeAndre Swift looked? How much different do you think? Shields, what would you to fix the defense? What would I do, Cosmo? I wouldn't be in a three front at all. I'd be most of the time in a four front. I would try to hide my linebackers as much as I possibly can. And here would be my front four. My front four would be Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and I would put Bryce Huff out there because I got to pay him. Those would be my four defensive end. Those would be my four D linemen. I wouldn't put Milton out there. Milton would be my swing guy and tackle, and he'd be the swing. I think they need another depth piece. I think they need a linebacker, and I think they need another interior defensive tackle too. I don't like what they have inside. And that'll help the secondary. Do they need pressure? Yeah. Now, you can't bring pressure when you have such young youth back there. I know some of you want, where are we going to get the pass rush from? So he'll blitz. Are you really going to blitz with two corners potentially in a game that are rookies? Would you here, let me ask you this. Would you blitz if Cooper DeJean, and Quinyon Mitchell are in the game at the same time, and you got Isaiah Rodgers in the slot? Would you blitz Devin White? Would you blitz him with rookies in there? This is why Bradbury's still on the ball team. There's a reason he's still there. Because if you blitz and you don't get home, there's a gaping hole in the middle of that field, and you got youth running crossing routes and kids that have never seen these routes before. That's why the exhibition season is going to be very important. Like, are you going to blitz against the Green Bay Packers and that opener with Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur calling plays with two rookies back there? You see, this is what I'm going to do. Xander brought this up earlier about the corners, and he was talking about the young guys. Well, you know what an offensive coordinator like Matt LaFleur is going to do in that first week? Where's the rookie guys? Oh, there's Quinyon Mitchell. Going right at him. I'm going right at him with my $50 million quarterback. I'm going right at him. I'm going after DeJean. I'm going after Keely Ringo. I'm going after every one of these guys. You guys are under some impression that they're not going to be targeted. You target youth and inexperience. Ability has nothing to do with this. The ability has nothing to do with it. You're in the league because you have ability. They're going to target all those young players. I really believe Slay needs to work on tackling big. Rigsby, he's 34 years old. Slay's not working on anything except his post-career game. 34 years old, working on his tackling? Those days are gone. Those days are gone. This guy's going to be working on his podcast, working on tackling. That's one thing you tell a 23-year-old corner. You don't tell a 34-year-old corner, hey, you need to work on your tackling game. No, I don't. He may have 3 seasons left. I think he's got one quality, and the rest of them, I don't know. We'll see. So you think he's still got shit left at 36? I don't know. He's been a good player, and he's been a really good Eagle. And I just said, hey, let me throw this at you. What if Hurts struggles in camp? Concern? He struggled last year down the stretch. He's had a what would we say? A very vocal offseason and how he's adapting to the new offense. So, yeah, he struggled last year at the end. He's struggling in OTAs and minicamp. And if he struggles in training camp, you're okay. Okay. Lastly here for me, how will this secondary shuffle out? There will be cause for Kenny Pickett. The whole thing with Hurts reminds me of Wentz. Kenny Pickett? Then again, I'd like to see Kenny Pickett didn't have this kind of talent in Pittsburgh. He clearly did not. Sills, how he should have made a move, Max Crosby, reminds me of Chris Long. Crosby's the third best pass rusher in the league right now. That's going to cost you a pretty penny. I'd like to have gotten Brian Burns. I don't know why they didn't make that play. Why they wouldn't go down that route. How the secondary shuffles out is going to be interesting to see as well. Okay? All right, guys. Do me a favor. Please hit the like button. Xander, where are we in the likes? Got to be around our number here a little bit. 14 days away till the start of training camp. We're on the runway, folks. We're on the runway. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, by the end of the week, we'll be 7 days out. I think 9 days. 9 days, something like that, right? We're talking about what? 9 days? We got the Jets are going to be getting ready for camp. All right, guys, hit the like button. Keep it here. National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. I'm going to make a comparison, but I don't know if this is even a fair comparison. Is Bronny James the next Tim Tebow? Tebow wasn't completely terrible in the NFL. He did win some playoff games, and he did win some football games. I mean, he wasn't a frontline 27th pick in the draft, but it looks like the same hype to me. You know what I mean? I mean, Tim Tebow looks like Patrick Mahomes compared to Bronny James. And I'm like, some people that are going like, well, you know, you got to give him give him what an opportunity. Of course he's going to get an opportunity. His old man got him that opportunity. That's okay. I had one last question here. I had somebody ask me this. Sills, if the Cowboys don't sign Dak Prescott and he becomes a free agent and Jalen Hurts struggles, should the Eagles consider signing a guy like Dak? Jalen go to the Cowboys? Probably not. Vegas gets Dak, Yale says? You think? Or how about the New York Giants? Yale, I think if he lands anywhere, I think he lands in New York. I think he lands with the Giants. I think when you're talking that kind of stuff there, I think he land. I like your idea with Vegas, but I could see him in New York because what did the Giants do after they're going to realize that Daniel Jones isn't the dude? The Steelers, I think they're going to give Justin Fields that opportunity after they move off of Russell Wilson, especially if Wilson doesn't have the year that they're thinking. New York will pay. Hey, Raiders will pay him big too. Absolutely. All right, guys, we really appreciate you guys. We're now on the runway to the start of the 2024 NFL season. Training camp is right around the corner. I cannot wait. College football is right here as well. Great stuff. I can't thank you enough. Gary Cobb will join us tomorrow. I thought Angelo was sensational. Guys, hit the like button. We thank you. Big Joe, Xander, thank you. 2 to 6 tomorrow, and we'll see you on the flip side.